do it.
That's what it's gonna take, and we're also live, by the way.
Oh shit! Hello. Welcome to an exciting new episode of C&C Bros. What may be the last episode of 2016. What a year, folks! Last
Bro,
time
do another one on 28th. You tripping?
Last time we looked at what we liked and what we didn't like about last year, but now it all comes to a head with a topic that we've been teasing for weeks. The final verdict. Not the Kingdom Hearts in-depth analysis that we were going to do with Drew, because that's still on the table for one day. But what we're doing is our final impressions of Final Fantasy 15. Now, this is a mostly me and George topic. Shelly's here for our other topics, and maybe break up some arguments if they happen, which they undoubtedly will. But this is an important time for us both. We need to validate our opinions to the other person. We haven't talked about it.
I'm not petty, bro.
Because we have not talked about this at all to each other. I've let George gather his thoughts and opinions. I've told him to watch a video that I ended up watching.
You mean you let me beat the game? I never watched that video, by the way.
Oh, you never watched that video? Well, I'll tell you what was in the video, because I can't use most of it as legitimate source.
I mean, I didn't watch the video, but I did read, I guess, what's an article, what's a post, I don't know, that FGC personality Yahozi posted on the finer and lesser points of Final Fantasy 15. That was a pretty solid read.
See, what I watched was Final Fantasy Peasants. It was about like all the cut content, because supposedly on 4chan there was a leak of an executive or a past employee at Square that helped work with the game, and he was talking about some of the cut things that he worked on and the things that he did and didn't know about the direction the story was taking. Some of their scheduling conflicts and whatnot, which some of it can be believed. Some of it is a little bit of a stretch sometimes, but most of the way he presented his information seemed credible. But I'm not using it and assuming that it is credible, because there's no way of knowing it. But it does serve to sort of strengthen my point on a what-if basis. Now, before we get into this debacle, we do have some other things to talk about. Namely,
what we got for Christmas? Totally.
Oh yeah, what did we get for Christmas, this guys? Because I was trying to pull up the topics. Yeah, what did you guys get for Christmas? And was any of it anime or game related?
Shelly, you want to go first?
I got a $10 gift certificate to Walmart.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. I understand their pain. George, why don't you go?
Well, my dad helped me get the components I need to finish out my desktop. So next time we end up casting, it won't sound better by any measure, but I'll at least be able to get started faster. Probably start streaming on Twitch again too, from something other than my PS4. Sister got me a Amazon Fire Stick.
What dat?
So it's a streaming device, hook up to the TV, much like Roku and Chromecast. But this one's jailbroken. Thing called Cody. You watching everything as if your boy had cable. Love it. $100 from my brother.
Oh, that's awesome.
I didn't know your brother came through the drive-thru.
Shut up, really.
Yeah, man, that tip you got. Gift that keeps on giving. And a World of Nintendo Cat Luigi figure from a friend of mine. To go with the Ice Luigi one I got last year. I collect other figures along with like plushes and amiibos. I got some Nendoroids. I got this Risei figure. I want the other one that Brian was supposed to buy for me and Shelly, but we see how he want to act.
You mean that one that cost about $146 a pop?
Well, you know what I said.
That's in limited supply.
That's why you had to buy it then. See,
When
now
I
it's
have
about to cost
$40 to myself at the end of
You
every
ain't buying
paycheck.
it then.
Why are you being selfish?
I'm sorry if I just don't want to put myself in debt for my friends.
I mean,
Like I already owe almost. I already owe like over $15,000 in student loans. Like I don't want any more.
you say you didn't want to put yourself in debt for your friends, but why did you choose Troy?
I didn't know you guys were gonna be there.
Sure.
I mean, you could have stopped school though, but you didn't stop.
No, I didn't stop. It was paid for mostly. If I would have stopped school, my parents, my grandparents, everybody would have killed me.
I probably would have too.
You wouldn't have known. Okay. I'm telling people that we have a spoiler and non-spoiler section in the video.
No,
Anyway, what I got for Christmas was
your 2 front teeth.
yeah, and I wanted a hippopotamus, but they didn't give me that. But I got a new iPod since my old one's screen shattered. It's red. It's very pretty. I really like it. Thanks, Dad, by the way, for that gift. It's a very good gift. I'm already using it. What I plan to get on Christmas Friday, since my Christmases got split this year, like they always do, is money. And that leads me into my next topic. What are you guys going to get with the money, or with all the money, with all the bonuses or family gifts or whatever that you got for Christmas?
My McDonald's didn't give us a Christmas bonus, so I just have to work hard. So my next paycheck should be like $500 or something.
I didn't get a bonus. I just got more hours than normal. I think we get more on Christmas Eve. I know we do on New Year's Eve and New Year's. I don't know if we do on Christmas Eve. I'm gonna pay back some money I owe, and maybe renew my Final Fantasy 14 subscription. I don't know.
I got a $25 Walmart gift card from my work. And
okay. See, here's the thing about the gift cards. Why do they keep giving them to go to Walmart? There are gift cards inside the Walmart. Just give me an American Express card, so I can go anywhere.
Because those are a pain. I know from
a Visa gift card then.
They're a pain too, because I recently had to a customer at my retail job that tried to pay with a Visa gift card and a debit card. You can't do that on that register. And it ended up making the sale last for about half an hour.
Brian, no one cares about Belk.
That's just where you work at, though, man.
Everywhere else, it works.
Yeah.
Doesn't it work that way everywhere else?
No.
I never tried to do it because I always felt bad trying to do it with other people.
Nah, ours works on ours the same way like credit cards do. We can even do the thing where they run it as credit and we put in the last 4 digits to confirm the purchase, and it's boom, all right, gift card.
Yep.
But that's mostly because you can also buy Visa gift cards at our store.
That's true.
So it's why would we mess that up? Although I wouldn't put it past us.
Well, what I'm going to buy first thing, because I spent that bonus money already. I spent it on a PSN card. My first order of business.
How much was the PSN card?
$20.
What kind of bonus is $20?
The $25 gift card.
Oh, that was the bonus?
Yeah, that was my bonus from work.
That wasn't just a gift?
Yeah, that just wasn't a gift.
No, the work sent us all gift cards in the mail. They were like, "Merry Christmas, thanks for what you do."
It wasn't even $50?
No, we're poor.
Yo, Drew got $50 straight cash at work. Like manager was straight up like, here you go.
I don't want to hear it. Shelly got $100 tip.
From the
I hate
drive-through.
I hate you. Like I words can't express like just how much loathing I had for you in that like 3 seconds.
Maybe you should get people to like you.
I do have people that like me. They just don't tip.
You're right, we don't.
Exactly. You're the only people that like me. But my first order of business is to buy 2.8 digitally because I want to support Kingdom Hearts being digital for the first time ever. Because if I do that, then maybe Disney will get their heads out of their asses and then they'll let every other one of them be digital and just make it more convenient for me. The only reason I want to buy a physical copy at this point is to maybe get like some sweet ass like limited edition like merch. But they're only giving us a pin, a Disney pin this time, and I don't want that again.
You get that 2.5 pin.
I don't want it.
The
I don't want it at all.
2.5 pin for getting 2.8. I love it.
Is it seriously the same pin?
It's the 2.5 pin that shows up on our screens at work.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Unless that's just a placeholder image.
I think that's a placeholder image because I'm pretty sure it had something to do with Dream Drop.
Okay.
It was like Dream Drop, Mickey, and Sora.
Well, we need to get it together.
Yo.
Because we got people all messed up.
Do you know that since 1996, GameSpot has only given out 12 10 out of 10 reviews?
Really? One of those was IGN. Not IGN, fucking MGS5. That's what I was trying to say.
Here, I'll send you the link. We can talk about it if you want.
Well, we can do that real quick.
That's the same thing with Famitsu, with only a handful of games ever getting 40 out of 40. And
they're almost always Final Fantasies.
40 out of 40, so they gave it an 80?
No, shut up.
But no, I think Ocarina of Time back in the day got it. Pokemon Black and White got it, I think. It was a recent Pokemon title that
I think Final Fantasy 13-2 got one.
I'm pretty positive there's a Final Fantasy in
I want to say it was... Wasn't it Type 0?
Okay, let's look at this.
Vanilla Type
Metal
0.
Gear Solid 4, MGS4, Guns of the Patriots. That game deserves it. That's my favorite Metal Gear game. I don't care what you say.
I mean, that's not why it deserves it, but it does deserve it.
It deserves it because it's his favorite game.
Yeah.
Specifically because I said so. But yeah, looking back on it, like that is probably the most gratifying Metal Gear experience I've ever had.
I completely forgot I have Journey. I just need to download it.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, Chrono Cross. Was Chrono Cross even good? I only played Chrono Trigger because I heard that Chrono Cross wasn't good.
I heard Cross was good.
Okay.
Well, no. I heard Cross was decent. It was good enough.
Okay.
Well,
Soul Calibur, Dreamcast, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
God, I love Soul Calibur.
Uncharted 4, or is that another article?
No, that's Uncharted 4.
Oh, there it is. Uncharted 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I knew that was one. Journey, Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, Bayonetta 2, Super Mario Galaxy 2.
Hey,
so that's it.
Bayo.
Why is Bayonetta 2 on here?
Bruh, have you played Bayonetta 2?
I've never played Bayonetta.
Yeah, Bayonetta is a good game.
Yes.
It's just that no one wants to play it.
They need to report it.
I mean, Platinum Games in general. No, they don't need to report it. Oh, and this is funny. So, somebody tweeted Hideki Kamiya about what his favorite Bayonetta game was. And just like, straight
like
without any...
Was he like the one I'm working on right now?
Yeah, without any hesitation, he's like, Bayonetta 3.
What an asshole.
Like, they have like E3 announcements for Scalebound and everything, and he immediately, like on Twitter, is like, so I know Scalebound's not out yet, but dig it. I'm doing Scalebound 2 and Bayonetta 3.
Awesome.
I have no idea Wait, is Bayonetta 3 really getting? Is that really like getting greenlit?
He's gonna do it, and
There's no reason they wouldn't do it.
What do you mean? There's no reason. That game didn't sell well at all.
who's
But
gonna
it's a
stop
popular Nintendo IP now.
Not really.
them? They're gonna make it.
It's not popular if it doesn't sell, Brian.
What happened to that 10 out of 10 you were just...
You were just praising it a minute ago, saying it was a good game.
Just because something gets a 10 out of 10, but it doesn't sell well, doesn't mean it should get a sequel. That means there's no audience for it.
It's gonna get a sequel because he's gonna do it. That's what I'm trying to explain. Like, Kamiya's gonna be like, all right,
what are you guys getting after Christmas?
Say what?
What are you guys getting after Christmas?
Some Steam games, I guess. Since I'll be able to. What do you mean I disgust you?
Why don't you just pre-order 2.8
No.
and get that sweet pin?
I don't know, maybe The Last Guardian?
What are you
How
doing?
did that do?
I heard it did fine. It's just frustrating as all hell.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's the only reason we haven't talked about it yet, is because no one in this group has played it.
Well, I don't plan on buying it. So
I might get that WWE 2K17.
do that.
I was like, I don't plan on buying it either, but I'll definitely watch people play it and hate them.
Why?
Because, like, they're going to be awful at it because the controls are awful. And if the controls awful, like, you're automatically awful.
So,
you don't just play a game with bad controls and become good at it.
So
What is that
it's
noise I keep hearing?
not doing good?
No, it's doing well, like, with reviews, and people are saying that it's a gorgeous game, but they're saying that it's extremely frustrating. I've heard, like, I don't know who said this, but they're like, it's like having a, I think it was Colin Moriarty, it's like, it's like having a dog. If you're not a dog person, like, you're gonna hate this game, because it's all about, like,
Well, don't you
the
have a
ins and
dog?
outs.
Wait.
Like,
If you're not a dog person, you're gonna hate this game. Well, good thing about 90% of the world is a dog person.
I'm not a dog person.
I'm that 10%.
I'm really not.
I like them both, but I have a preference for cats.
Oh yeah, like, I like small
Who
dogs.
prefers cats?
I do.
How come all my friends from Troy prefer cats?
I
Because
don't
cats
know.
are easy
people.
to deal with.
Troy
Dogs
is-
are fun, but I can't give a dog all the attention it needs because
Troy
I'm
is the weirdest school I've ever been to.
I don't
Everyone-
like giving. the
Everyone
attention.
cares about the band and not the football. Everyone cares about cats, but not dogs.
Well,
There's no reason to care about the football
I was about
until
to say,
now.
in all
We just want a
fairness,
bowl game.
until recently, we kind of were like,
A
Let's be for
laughing
real.
stock.
To be fair, we're still a laughing stock.
but that music program is lit though.
We just had a weak schedule.
Now you're agreeing with us, Shelly. I don't get it. What are you driving at here?
What about? Okay, so you said you're gonna get Last Guardian, and George said some Steam games, and he refuses to buy 2.8.
You darn Skippy.
Why? Well, I'm
You
not.
gotta spend that
Don't
money to
answer
play-
that. I know the answer to that.
I spend that money to play Dream Drop again.
Don't answer that question. I know exactly why you wouldn't do it. I'm
That's the
the one that
most
has
fun I never want to have again.
that's the answer. The question I should be asking myself. Why am I buying this game?
Why are you buying the game?
Because
Why
I have,
haven't you bought Uncharted 4 yet?
because I have a problem. And I need to see Kingdom Hearts through the end. I need to stay dedicated until 3 comes out.
You say it through to the end. You're gonna be in there after 3.
Okay, Uncharted 4
If
isn't
it's good.
it isn't a 70-hour game, okay? It's like a 12 to 15-hour game.
That's kind of
Well,
what
it's
I'm.
not a JRPG either.
That's kind of what I'm.
Yeah, it's not a JRPG. It's kind of linear.
Like, you know how much time I put in, like, to Final Fantasy 15? Like 69 hours.
Do you know how you already beat it?
Heck.
But yeah, I'm gonna get 2.8. I'm gonna get Berserk maybe, but any like money that I get like immediately after 2.8 or like that's like pulling over from that purchase, I'm gonna spend it right on Persona 5 because I want to get that
Of course.
70 because I have like a $70 like pre-order like still out
I
there.
mean,
So I need
same.
to get that
I
paid
should
off.
probably finish paying off Persona at some point.
Because I need to get that out of the way because that's like my biggest purchase. Even though it's coming out in April, like I need to get that out of the way
Please.
because that money would be better suited now, and I could just save up. Because Berserk, honest to God, like as much as I want to play Berserk Muso, I don't know if I want to pay $60 for it immediately.
God,
You
that's
don't.
$60.
Justin will though. Justin,
I mean,
keeps
I would
asking-
too. If I had enough money right now, I definitely would pay it off immediately. My priorities are Kingdom Hearts because that's coming out first, and then Persona 5 because that has the most money I need to put towards it. Because I
Justin
have
keep
like
asking me about a collector's edition, and I'm like, bro, when the last time you seen Tecmo Koei release a collector's edition for anything that wasn't Dead or Alive Extreme?
Did they even release that in the West?
Nope. But we got them. We got the
Patches.
Singapore imports though.
Oh God.
Nah, man, imports, bro. Play Asia. Get them sales. Get them pre-orders.
Oh, Brian,
Southeast Asia.
before y'all go on to your, I don't know, hour-long discussion of Final Fantasy.
It won't be hour. It won't be.
It'll
long.
be 3.
Oh God. Put in your 2-minute review of Xenoverse 2.
Oh, well, shit! Yeah, I did beat that yesterday. I beat Pokemon too, by the way. The
Sweet.
same night as I beat Xenoverse 2, and now I feel empty inside because I'm like, shit. These are my games that I was like padding until Kingdom Hearts.
It's okay. We're still doing parallel quests.
Well, let me start off with Pokemon. Pokemon, honest to God, like I stand by it. Game of the year for me.
That's fair.
Absolutely. Because it's the best Pokemon I've ever played, and the one that I've honest to God like had the most fun with in years. I think the last Pokemon game like I had a ball with was
Emerald.
Yeah, Emerald. Like that's the last one that I like legitimately. No, I take that back. Diamond. Diamond was the one I had the most. That Gen 4 is my favorite gen.
4 was clean.
Gen 4 like gets shit on by so many people. I love it. Like fantastic. I love that game. I loved playing Platinum when that came out. I had a lot of fun with it, and like Gen 4 was the one that like I actually went the extra mile to get like a game shark or like a game hack so that I could like hack my game and get cool Pokemon or event Pokemon that I missed.
I did that, and that's how my diamond crashed.
Exactly. I got that Arceus though, and I got to experience that cool moment. It was great. But
At
anyway,
the Hall of Origin with all the music playing and the light shining from the sky.
Sun and Moon, tight story actually. I was legitimately surprised at how tight the story was for Sun and Moon because it's nothing spectacular, but like every game, Pokemon like gets a tighter and tighter story. And it works. It really does. Like I think Pokemon benefits from having like a lore and a universe that's set up because I think that keeps like it benefits from that because that keeps the old fans like interested because you're presenting new info and you're creating like this multiverse in the games.
God, don't say that word.
And it's creating like this universe in the game. Then, if you don't want me to say it,
I just get like Aura's flashbacks and all the speculation, and that's too much for me to bear.
That is a multiverse. Like I don't understand. Like it can't be taken any other way. They explicitly say, "What if there was another one?" And you're like, "Ha ha! I played that one." But anyway, I really love Sun and Moon, or just Moon because that's the one I played. I really like it. I really like Lily's character.
I bet you do.
She's fine. Like she does good. Like she, honest to God, like because the protagonist, the player that you play as is always a blank slate and like has no personality except for like what you like push onto them.
I also enjoyed Persona 4.
Lily lives out like the personality, like the protagonist's journey. Like that, this is her game. Because like all of like the stuff that like people bitch and moan about, like Pokemon having like a good protagonist and like being like a true like mute player and like having no like a personal input from the player. they put that Lily fulfills that role, and I think that they're slowly moving towards bigger and better stories like as time goes on. But honestly, how good is a Pokemon game story going to get? We'll have to we'll know with time. But anyway,
I mean, I thought they weren't gonna top the theme of X and Y because, you know, every generation your legendaries get bigger. It's like, wow, well, what's after Arceus? And it's like, well,
aliens.
how about the balance of the universe? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
wow, what's
after that?
Life and death.
Death.
Oh God. Well, what's after that? Alchemy. Oh, you got me. You got
fucking aliens.
You got me.
But yeah, I haven't gone out and done a lot of post game yet, and like I'm gonna go catch the Ultra Beasts soon. They're fine. I wish they weren't version exclusive because that's kind of bullshit in my opinion. But whatever.
Wow, I wish Pokemon quit doing Pokemon. That's weird.
I mean, yeah.
Brian, I found it.
Don't make that face with me, boy.
And for Xenoverse 2, it's fun. Xenoverse 2 has its problems, but if you're a fan of Dragon Ball Z, like to any kind of degree, if you enjoyed it at some point, you'll enjoy it again. And Xenoverse 2, it's fan service placed on a nice but like unsteady platter because it gets shaky sometimes, and sometimes combat is more frustrating than it is satisfying. But you know, like using a Kamehameha wave or using Death Ball, like those are good moments, and those make it fun. Like living in the universe of Dragon Ball Z, like as your own custom character that you can put your personality onto, that's unique in and of itself. And I think that's what makes Xenoverse 2 like worth playing. Like combat's been improved, I hear, from Xenoverse 1.
It's so much smoother. They made this for current gen.
And it works, but it doesn't work sometimes. And I think that depends on like the characters you play too, because I haven't made a second character. I did a Frieza Race character. But fuck it. Go buy it if you like Dragon Ball Z. Like, it's gonna be good.
Yeah. That's what I should probably do with some of that money.
Oh God, Shelly.
Universe too.
I found it, Brian, after months of looking.
I'm fucking.
I'll put my dick in it.
Anyway, so that's my 2 cents. So now without further ado, let's move into the meat of the discussion.
While you guys talk about this, I'm gonna go get a drink.
Okay.
All right.
Bring me something too.
Okay.
Final thoughts on Final Fantasy 15.
Control your thoughts.
Ha. Brian got thoughts.
I do have thoughts.
Yeah, he does.
I have lots of them.
You see what I put in the chat? Like the call chat.
I was thinking that too. Low key.
All right.
It's because we love you.
I love you guys too.
Oh, that's weird.
Anyway, Final Fantasy 15 and our final thoughts, because George has finally beaten the game. I beat it about, I think, 2 weeks ago. And I haven't played. I haven't played. Actually, I take that back. I played Christmas Day. Because
I was gonna say, don't lie to me. I saw you online.
Because I beat the Adamantoys finally.
I got the receipts.
So the big thing here, George, is where do you want to start? Because
exposition.
Well, let's give some background information on this game.
I wasn't about to give background info on the game. I was about to give exposition on how we got to this point.
Yeah, let's do that too, but like, let me reassure everybody, this is the non-spoiler section of the review. I'll tell you, and I'll give you 10 or 15 seconds to get the hell out of Dodge if you don't want to get spoiled on this game, because I'll be as fair as possible. This
would be the spoiler section.
No,
you said it's the non.
This is the non-spoiler section first.
Okay. I get what you're saying now.
We're trying to do general, like, we're doing general opinions without spoiling any plot points of the game. As best as we can. Now, they're not saying like we might spoil locations or whatnot, but no character, no story details, no nothing like that.
Plot relevant.
Yeah.
Heck,
Not
we
that it
may
would
tell you
matter
stuff
that
you
much.
already knew. Like half of my conversation is gonna be dribble about versus 13.
And mine too, because that, unfortunately, that is the basis of what we're basing like the final product on, because that's what we were shown initially. So now we were always going to compare it to that. It's just a matter of when. But if you haven't played this game, and if you want to play this game, and if you do care about being spoiled, go experience it for yourself, because this is a game that is very polarizing. To many fans, a lot of people love it. Casual people, like who are new fans to the series, like the game. It's positive. Longtime fans of the series like it sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Like it varies. Like there's a big discussion about it.
I mean, that's what wait mode is for.
Fuck that shit. I tried it. It does not play well at all. It's worse than Final Fantasy XII's. Like you could stop time at any time to like input commands, which I did have to do occasionally. But it broke up gameplay so much.
I see some people make it work, but go ahead. Well, I'll put that in my discussion because I want to talk about that too.
You can, because like I never used wait mode, and I honestly I have different opinions about like what 15 should have been anyway. So
I think we all do.
Without further ado, I want to talk about gameplay and general gameplay and design of the combat and the overworld, and what its strengths and limitations are.
All right.
So,
because you're about to get into this.
Go ahead.
We didn't do the exposition.
Oh yeah, go ahead and do the exposition.
Because I mentioned it, and then you were like, "Okay, we'll do that." Now, discussion. All right. As most of you may know, Final Fantasy 15 is a game 10 years in the making. Started off as a part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis, which is the compilation surrounding Final Fantasy 13, much like the 7 compilation, 10 and 10-2, 4 and after years, whatever the heck you want to call Dissidia. And
fan service.
Oh yeah,
a nice little cupcake. That's what I called it.
It's included with the 13 trilogy and Type 0, formerly known as Agito 13.
But now, Type 0.
Yeah. Over time, 15 is like, change development hands and heads over and over again.
The story behind it changing development, like, is that they were developing it for the PS3, but then were approached about, like, I think 15% into game or 20% into development, and they were approached with the specs for the PS4, and they're like, shit, like, we have ambitions, and that'll help us realize them better. So Nomura was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Develop the product, and we'll just not do anything with this.
Well, even on top of that, when they were in development for the PS3, they wanted to put it together, Crystal Tools engine. The thing you see, the thing you see in the 13 trilogy and Type 0 as well. But
honestly, I have there's big problems with the Luminous engine too. So I'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, as 13's development and release came along, as well as 13.2, dev team started to see problems with the Crystal Tools engine in terms of applying it to Versus 13 and making it the game they had once envisioned, as well as being approached with specs for next gen. And seeing that, well, okay, can't particularly use Crystal Tools for this, and we see how 13 ended up, and 13.2 by extension, we're going to have to do an overhaul. Starts off Nomura, KH dev team, essentially trying to make Advent Children the game.
Ooh.
Yeah, he gets pulled off, moved to KH3, Tabata directs Versus 13, which then becomes rebranded as 15, because so much deviation has been taken from the initial concept that they believe that the game by itself, plot and I guess other facets wise is strong enough to be its own numbered entry in the series, but while still in spirit being a part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis.
I'm gonna argue that because that's gonna be in the spoiler section, just because it has like specific plot points that I do want to talk about. But I have my doubts whether or not it did have something to do with they just didn't have anything ready like for Final Fantasy 15.
Well,
and
I'm telling you stuff from interviews and
oh yeah,
readings.
because like I think personally this is in the spoiler section, but that they were so stuck on Versus 13 that they didn't have any like actual concepts for 15 because they were trying to get that game put out so much that they were trying to realize the scope and scale that Nomura wanted for Versus 13, that they ended up making it a branded title because they were going to make it as big as possible. Because I think Versus 13 could have been its own game, but I think Nomura always wanted it to be its own. I think his vision for it was that it would be on the scale of a numbered title. It was going to be 13's counterpart, which is a numbered title. So why not have it be a numbered title at the end? But that's just me. But
I mean,
anyway,
that was the reason for its name, though. The Versus.
Oh yeah.
The Versus was put there for the juxtaposition against like the world that 13 was, and the whole theme was okay, a fantasy wrapped in reality, which is like where you get all the realistic elements from the game in.
Exactly.
In fact, and all of this is debatable, but you could still see parts of that you could still see parts of that concept at like the very end of Lightning Returns, which, spoiler, I guess not for the spoiler section of 15,
and no one cares about that game at this point.
Just in terms of Lightning Returns, after Bunavelsa gets bodied and the new world gets reconstructed, you see Lightning in a much more realistic world from the one they were in.
It looks like Chaos.
Yeah.
Which, have you seen that BuzzFeed? I can't talk about that right now. That's spoilers.
And no, I haven't.
It's comparing the universe of 7, the connections between the universes of 7, 10, and Final Fantasy 13 and 15. Like how they're all connected.
I mean, you already know 10 and 7 are.
I don't believe that, but all right.
They tell you that.
No, they don't.
Oh, you read the what the heck is it called? The Ultimania guide. They tell you that Shinra in 10 is looking for a way to like harness a new energy source, to which he like leaves the planet, finds whatever the heck is called, Gaia, and then like starts Shinra Electric Company.
What a lot of bullshit.
It's there. It's in there. There are receipts.
I got to go back to the wiki because I never found that.
You are more than welcome to. You are more than welcome to believe that, but
we'll do that another time on my own time.
Say that to Sakaguchi and them, like. But anywho's, that's exposition for the game. Exposition for this discussion is about a week ago.
Week ago.
Oh, Shelly, shit.
Yeah. Brian was like, personally, what's your game of the year? And I'm like, Shelly says Uncharted 4. Brian says Pokemon Moon. I say 15. And then, as always, I get crucified and told why I'm wrong.
I didn't say you were wrong, George.
Thank you, Shelly.
I did, because I had already...
I didn't say you were right.
I just...
I mean, but you remained indifferent, and I respect that. Either that or you didn't care, which I also respect.
And this is a point I want to bring up to the audience, too. Like, this isn't me bitching about 15, just to bitch about it. Like, I put this in the description of the video. We have valid opinions. Like, both of our opinions, like George and mine, like, where we're coming from, like it's completely fair because we've had our own experiences with the franchise. We both love it. We both want to see it prosper. And
Debatable.
what we're saying comes from a love of the series. Like I don't want this game to be bad, but I can't help it being super critical about things that I see as a problem and that are honestly problematic to me because Final Fantasy is a unique beast because it's always changing and it's always evolving, but it has its constants too. But we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. But that's what we're going to talk about in this podcast is like what exactly constitutes a Final Fantasy, and why 15 like could improve or why it is good. And on that note, I do want to go back and talk about about the gameplay itself, like the design of the gameplay and the design of like the overall like overworld aspects and like the open world aspects of the game, because I think that those two aspects are what make 15 shine like a gemstone. It is a precious gem when you
wanted
look
to
at
say Crazy Diamond.
Well, I was gonna say a diamond, but I was like, maybe it's not that
like some
lustrous.
kind of crazy rainbow star.
Shut the fuck up.
And Steven!
Fucking hate that opening. But I want to go ahead and say that.
Oh, jeez, your mic.
Oh yeah, that's because my mouth was like right on it, and I had to scratch my ear. It was an accident. Sorry. I just want to say that the combat is very fluid. It can get clunky when you have bigger enemies. I think that the open world aspect of the game is where it shines and it does the most right. But I want to talk about what that means too. Because as we all know, like at this point, there's only one open world map in 15. And it's the one you're dropped off in, and that's where you are stationed to do most of your side quests. You're exploring, you're looking for royal tombs and whatnot, you're doing beast hunts. It's all on that one map. And 15 has given players the option to like customize the regalia and to drive around, and that's the heart of the game, right? Like that's what it was being sold on, is that it's a road trip.
Drive club.
It's Drive Club. Between the four main characters, Noctis, Prompto, Ignis, and Gladio.
Gladiolus.
Gladiolus, yeah. I really hate his voice, by the way. I beat the game and I was still hated talking about it.
Well, I mean, you hate a lot of things, man, and it's fine. That is A-okay.
I do like everybody else though in the group, but I'll get to that in the spoiler section. I'm not 100% satisfied with the combat because while it is fluid and it is intuitive, I love mob fights in this game. Mob fights are where it's at. Like that's where the chaos and the fun and the adrenaline get pumping. You get to experiment with things. You've got your party members that have really good AI, by the way, depending on how you level up the ascension tree. Your party members can like make or break a fight, and that you really do find yourself like leaning on them at times. Like this isn't a game to be played by Noctis. Like I did that in a dungeon once. It was a late game dungeon that had a level 55 recommendation for it. Two of my party members glitched out. I don't know what happened, but they got hit so hard that they went through the floor, and they were in the battle, like officially they had a health bar, but they weren't taking damage because they weren't in the area. So it was just me, and it was me and Gladio, and I was fighting Red Giant. I was fighting 3 Red Giants, or 2 Red Giants, and a Lamia. Oh, like not exactly a Lamia, but it had like it was a status horde, and it looked like a Lamia. That fight lasted about a good 40 to 50 minutes. because I was fighting with basically Noctis, and I was only paying attention to my health and ignoring Gladio, and then maybe using Dawn Hammer like every now and then to like damage an Iron Giant, because I wasn't that powerful enough yet to take on Iron Giants with ease. You need your party members. That's the whole point of this. You need your party members. Like, you will be surprised at how crucial they are in the victory. Ignis is best man of this game, honestly. He's my favorite character. He's always been my favorite character. But combat is like most Final Fantasy games, it's as deep as you want to make it, because there are options to make it really easy on the player. Wait mode is one of those for people who aren't a fan of action gameplay and aren't like used to it, and that's mostly there for old Final Fantasy fans. Like, it's pandering to like classic fans who aren't that good at action games and want the turn-based element. And I'll let George elaborate on that because he's used it more than I have.
I haven't used it.
You haven't?
I've seen it in use, and I've sat and had discussions about it with the people who like use it.
My opinion, and this is my personal opinion, Final Fantasy 15 wants to be an action RPG. It is not an action RPG. It is not a true action RPG. Because remember, 13 was going to be like Kingdom Hearts' dark cousin, like its emo cousin, right? And it was based solely on the combat system of Kingdom Hearts, and it was going to be a true action RPG, like direct player input, influencing combo, like developments. Now, what we have here is, depending on the direction of the analog stick, you can unleash like a different kind of combo with each weapon. But they also give you the option, like they tell you straight up, like hold down the circle button to unleash a continuous combo. It's called blitzing, I think. And that takes the action element out of it, because you're not button mashing, and it doesn't depend on player input anymore. It's just how long you can hold down the circle button and like figuring out what each weapon does, like when you face a certain direction. And that's another thing. Like, while the combat can be smooth and buttery smooth, the animations on the characters are gorgeous. The interactions on link strikes, those are awesome. Techniques, they have a certain strategical element because you get iframes with the party members you're using. So if you use a technique that involves all your party members, like, you're good to go. Yay. Overwhelm is broken, in my opinion. As fun as it is, and as smooth and buttery smooth as it can be, like it can be chaotic too, and it can be a little bit clunky. And when you dissect it a bit, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's not a true action RPG. You can dodge, or you could hold down the dodge button and phase. You could button mash circle to unleash your own combos, which is what I ended up doing because it felt right to me to keep pressing the circle button to unleash a combo. And it didn't hurt my gameplay that I did it. I still did my combos the way that I wanted to. But I know I also had the option of just holding it down and doing it that way. That takes the strategy out of it for me, because at that point, it's just about positioning, more about skill. There's not a lot of skill to be had in Final Fantasy 15 besides blocking and knowing when to use techniques, and positioning yourself around the enemy if you do hold down the circle button. And that's my personal opinion. And this is something I read in the IGN review too. Like, there's not a lot of customization of characters, because like it's really up to like what weapons you give them and what accessories you give them, and like how you develop the combat tree. Like, you might focus on Noctis's like personal abilities, or you might focus more on like support abilities, like breaking damage limit, learning high-level techniques for certain characters, which, by the way, I haven't played that far in the game, so if anybody wants to correct me, they can. Getting AP and enough AP to get all that shit, like, some of these abilities have, like, 999 requirements for AP. I think the most AP I ever had was 212 at any given point in time. Grinding for that shit's impossible, and I wonder if that's a part of the New Game Plus, because I haven't started one, if you'll be able to just like carry over your ascension tree skills into that game. I assume you will be, but we don't know. I don't know, but I'll check it out. But what I want to take away from combat, or what I want to leave you guys with, as far as my thoughts on the combat, is that it's not exactly skill based, because if it was a true action RPG like Kingdom Hearts, it's all about button inputs and skill and knowing timing and whatnot. And there would be a greater degree of customization. But what Final Fantasy 15 has become, I think, combat is fine. It's still fun. But I don't like it when people call it an action RPG, because, in my opinion, it's a faux action RPG. It tries it. It didn't commit. It did not commit to being an action RPG.
We not good enough, boys.
It did not commit the whole 9 yards, and it's fine. It still is a good game to play, but I just want to make that clear. Like, that's something that, like, I noticed as someone who does enjoy action RPGs, and I also like turn-based. It had this weird mesh of the two that did not work as well as I had thought it would, but it still was better than I was hoping.
Well, and
now
I guess it'd be weird to ask, given the it'd be weird to ask given the fact that you managed to explain a good percentage of it. But I'm kind of just asking again so I can be clear. In what ways did it not mesh, in your opinion?
And we do know,
Like,
once again, I'm bringing up wait mode. I have not played with wait mode except for once. I tried it in the final chapter because I was fighting a big enemy, and I had been wondering how to use it. Wait mode is... Oh, go ahead.
Probably a bad time to decide when to use it.
Oh, yeah. It really was a bad idea.
I feel like wait mode, in that case, because I watched video of Zach doing it. And, you know, in the comments or whatever, I'm checking out how he does it and everything. And he agreed with me, and a couple other people did. I'm not sure if you would. Wait mode, in essence, still kind of feels like the ATB. Just without everything as streamlined.
That makes sense. That honestly does make a little bit of sense to me. I think that was an element of 13 that they did carry over, because there's a lot of like little bits and pieces of the game that remind me of 13. Some more than I think that they should, because it kind of disturbed me at some points. But I'll be honest, like when I got to the little seaside shack restaurant, I got such Lightning Return vibes that I got kind of disgusted for a moment, and I kind of had to stop playing for a bit.
I saw the guys in Lestalem playing instruments, and it reminded me of the Bard in Lightning Returns.
Oh, yeah.
I like him, though. And I like them. I just wish they played, like, more familiar songs and had, like, vocals.
More good music. What is that noise I'm hearing? Is that you snorting, Shelly?
What?
What is that noise I'm hearing? I'm hearing someone going... or something like that. It sounds like an animal. Or someone sleeping. Is Kate Sith fine?
I kicked her out my room a bit ago.
Okay. Anyway. What were you talking about?
Wait mode.
Yeah, wait mode. And you're asking how it doesn't mesh. I honestly see wait mode as pandering, and I really do think that it's pandering, because Tabata's already given interviews, which is problematic to me personally. He's talking about how older fans of Final Fantasy, like, they have like this idea of what they think Final Fantasy should be, and he calls it Final Fantasy disease, which pisses me off, to be honest. I understand that he wants to make his own vision for his own game for the series, and he wants it to be reality. That's fine, but you know, you've got a game that's rooted and rich in history and needs to remember where it's been, because if you don't remember where it's been, you're not going to have a good time with the fans or anybody else because too much at once can kill the franchise.
So are you saying 15 should have been
14, like
turn-based?
no, I don't think 15 should have been turn-based. I think 15 should have stuck to its Kingdom Hearts roots and been a true action RPG. That's my opinion because I think that's what they wanted to do. But I think with development issues and whatnot, and like with their focus on the game, and what they wanted to accomplish, and what Tabata's vision was, that it ended up becoming the hold down circle to win, basically. Like, you know, like KSU has like the joke, like press triangle to win. Like, it's hold circle to win in some cases. Just to be perfectly honest,
I don't see the fault in option select. You know what I mean?
And there's no fault in having it, but I think that like it could have been better implemented because I had never heard of wait mode.
Well,
granted, I had not paid attention to like
I say that
streams and stuff.
I say that in response to auto blitzing, not the wait mode.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with like being able to hold down the button in order to perform your combos. In all honesty, it takes stress, like from a just from a hardware standpoint, it takes the stress off of like beating the crap out of your circle button.
See, and I think, and
like,
I know this is
that's actually.
And I see the sense in that too, but like, and I know that like a lot of my complaints come from me having played Kingdom Hearts and being so used to that combat that honestly I wanted to play 15 like Kingdom Hearts, and I had to come up with this like unique blend of Witcher 3 and Kingdom Hearts combat because those are the two games that I tried to play it like, and it did not work for either of them.
Well, I mean,
so
I figure that's an issue people are just like suffering from in general.
Yeah.
Like I don't think anybody's going in particularly blind. Everybody's expecting something. You're expecting Kingdom Hearts. People are expecting, you know, what their favorite iteration of Final Fantasy was, and then other people are, you know, like myself, still expecting Versus 13.
I still am, honestly. I feel like that game should be released still.
I still think, like, in some form or fashion, though, that's a skewed way to look at it. Because at the end of the day, the reason it's not Versus 13 anymore is because they felt that it had the potential to be its own thing. And so if we keep looking at it like not its own thing, it's kind of going to ruin the... It's going to ruin the view of what it could be.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the overworld and the open world aspects of 15, because that's its strength. Like, that's what this game is. It's a JRPG meets Western RPG, kind of holy matrimony. And it's surprising how well Final Fantasy gets it. Because this is the first time they've really ever done anything like this on this kind of scale. I think 12 was that trial period where it worked really well because they had amazing locales, but at the end of the day, 12 is its own beast. And 15, I think, is like the natural evolution of what 12 became, and it's a natural evolution of what Lightning Returns tried to be, because Lightning Returns was very limited in its own scale, because you had a time element that hindered your ability to explore. 15 doesn't have any such thing, and you can get lost in the world very easily. And I do want to give credit where credit's due. The open world that they do have, because they do only have the one map, is astoundingly beautiful, astoundingly detailed. Like, it has a good amount of secrets and side quests and dungeons to explore, and they're put in creative places. You can stumble upon things by accident, which is usually the case for me. Like, I would take a side quest, and then on the way to said side quest, I get sidetracked by something else. And I'd have fun. Like, stumbling onto royal tombs, like, that was awesome. because you're just going through places and you're like, hey, I found a power up, and it's gonna make me better in the long run, and that's a good feeling to have, and I love that. I love that feeling of just like, wandering aimlessly, and then all of a sudden you see something fantastic. Or something scary as shit, like a Midgar Zolom. I remember seeing that and thinking, I can take it, and then I looked at its level, and I think it was 74 or 94, and I said, fuck that. I'm out.
I have my own personal gripes about the Royal Arms, but
that's a good thing, though, like the open world. Now, the inverse of that, and this gets into like my complaints about the game as a whole, kind of, it touches on it, or begins to. The only reason 15's open world is so good is because it's the only map that they had to focus on. That's where all the development went. Because I remember someone pulling up a meme. They were talking about how like teams of the development team would go out to different locales and they'd take pictures, they'd experience things, they go on mountain hikes and whatnot, like experience nature, like get a really good feel for it, and then they come back and they'd start creating stuff. And I remember them talking about a specific rock that they found that they thought was perfect, and how they did all this mocap, not mocap because the rock doesn't move, but how they did like this imagery, and they put a lot of time into making this rock fit and be perfect in the open world of 15. That's a hell of a lot of assets to be used for scenery. Whereas you look at Witcher, not even 10 years, because this game technically has been in development for 3 years.
About 10 years worth.
3 years.
I'm gonna keep saying it.
I'm be real with you though. That's why I'm not getting into that because that's spoiler territory, and I'll come back to that. But like and I remember the whole point of that post about like all these assets being used on the rock was that like that was why 14 failed, because they wasted so much time making it look good that it didn't play good at all, and it was a shitty game. It was a shitty MMO. And people hated it. It made up for it, but it almost made Square go bankrupt. Like it did terribly for the money that was put into it, and they had to save it. And Realm Reborn, like, thank God for Realm Reborn, because that pulled Square out of bankruptcy nearly, like just about, or not out of bankruptcy, but like out of the red for the most part. It saved them again. Final Fantasy has been the savior of a company, but the thing is that like while 15 does have this beautiful and like amazingly detailed open world, like that's where all the time went, and because that's where all the time went, other aspects of the game have suffered. And I get back to like it had 3 years of development, because remember, Nomura was on the project until 2013, because 15 was rebranded as 15, or Versus 13 was rebranded as 15 in 2013, like at E3, and that was when we also got the KH3 announcement that it was in development. And that was, I remember that year like it was fucking yesterday. I cried almost. I was laughing maniacally. It was a good night for a Square Enix fan. But the thing about that is that shortly after, Nomura got pulled. And not because of any fault of his own, but he had too much to do. I think he had too much on his plate, because he's, at that point, probably being approached for 7 remake, which he is working on too. He had Kingdom Hearts 3 and 2.8 and the HD remakes that he had his hands in. And then on top of that, he had to work with Final Fantasy.
He need his help for that 1.5 and 2.5.
And then on top of that, he had to work on 15, which would have been its own numbered title. And I think that Square, rightfully so, pulled him from the project because he just had too much to do. Like, it was not an issue about him not being able to do a good job with it. It was just that he was taking too long, and they wanted 15 out because they needed a new numbered title soon, because 13 left a bad taste in people's mouths. And they were still reeling from that and trying to profit off of it as much as they could, which is where Lightning Returns came in, which also came out in 2013. Coinkydink.
Coinkydink.
So they were under pressure, I think, to get the game out as soon as possible. And when Tabata came into the project, it became something else. And I'll go into this in detail when we talk about the cuts and shit, like specific stuff in the story and whatnot.
MGS5 boys.
That is a very accurate. That I got so much MGS5 feels, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But still, Overworld, in my opinion, fantastic. It had weird elements, and you can tell that like they wanted to do more with it, and it was rumored to have more of it in it. And as far as if these leaks can be trusted, like it had more areas planned to do it that ended up being scrapped for time because they did need more time to make this game. I think that this game honestly should have been in development for 5 or 4 years, but it was in development for 3. Technically 10 if you want to go back that far, but at that point it was a completely different animal. But you know, yeah, they did such a good job, but I think that but I'll give my final but when we get into the spoiler section because that ties in with specific story elements, and we'll come back to it. But I think that overall, like, Square did the best possible thing they could have done with the environment and the gameplay, with the hand and the time that they were given. I think that Tabata made a good game in that aspect. It's his game. It may not be all of his game that he wanted to make. It definitely is not what Nomura wanted to make, but I think that he did the best he could, and he made a finished product-ish. He made a finished-ish product. What about you? How do you feel about the open world and the gameplay? Or, I mean, the open world specifically.
The fact that he made a finished product was what I said last cast. And then that's when y'all gave me the work.
And I thought about it, and I was like, George is right. Like, at the very least, the game is finished from a 3-act standpoint. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to this game. That's story that we're about to get into, but like, it is a finished game. It is not like MGS5 where the entire final act is just cut.
Well, see, that's the entire point I was making, though. It's like, for as long as we've been waiting on some sort of project, regardless of its rebranding, at the end of the day, you know, not only did we get a finished product, but it's playable. Like, it's enjoyable to some degree. You know, people can like rant and rave and say it's awful, but they bought it. They're playing it.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to read this comment that I just saw, and it says, "What do you think about hentai?"
I just saw that too.
I love it.
Next question. Yo, straight up, dog. Were you
Next
there
question.
for that episode? I don't think they were.
Go look it up. We had a hentai episode.
It's still our best episode.
It's probably one of our funniest episodes, in my opinion. Anyway, back to what you were saying, George.
I don't know this part. Anyway, but yeah, nah. My entire argument was that we have a finished playable product for its production period, and that's more than we can say about a lot of things. Even using the reception you've been hearing about Last Guardian as part of the argument. It's like, you know, yeah, it's gorgeous, it's all get out and it's beautiful, but apparently, like, people are having aches and pains when it comes to even trying to play the game because of the control scheme.
Which is my problem with Shadow of Colossus, but that's a whole different ballpark. But yeah, let's go get into the next topic, because I touched upon this in my discussion, but I didn't go into detail. The story. How does the story hold up as a finished project? And this is in general terms, and we're not giving specifics. We will get into specifics after this section, and I will warn you. But just heads up, get ready to leave if you don't want to hear it.
I was gonna say, yo, body him right now. Where these spoilers at? I'm finna do it. Boy, I'm gonna do it.
Don't do it. Not yet. I'll give you I get the first shot at it, though, because I have something I need to get off my chest, and it's
Way!
from the depths of my soul. It'll be one sentence. Anyway, story strengths and limitations. This story, and I'll be honest with you guys, like perfectly honest, does not work for this game. It works in a sense, but it is not good by any means.
Oh, okay.
It is adequate. It is an adequate story, but you can clearly see that because all the time and attention was spent polishing the world and the gameplay, the story is the one that got fucked in the ass.
Yo, nah, I got you.
And that is 100%
I was
true.
in the Twitter discussion for this one. Oh, yeah.
There have been cuts. There have been changes in the last 6 to 4 months of development, if rumors are to be believed, leaks that are to be believed from that video by Final Fantasy Peasant. Go watch him. Like that's actually a good video. Interesting. But it's astounding like how much like you can tell just from trailers from when Tabata was director. They changed so much, like so soon. And I'll get into specifics when we're in the spoiler section, but the story suffers because the gameplay and the world were focused on more. And it's just enough to get by. I enjoyed the ending to Final Fantasy 15, and I'll talk about that at length once again in the spoiler section. But
it was over. It was finally over.
It was a good ending, in my opinion. The journey to that ending was filled with shit and rushed storytelling because, let me tell you, Final Fantasy 15 has a pacing problem because Chapter 1 happens pretty fast. They give you a bomb drop at the end of Chapter 1. You just take it, you run
but what
with it.
happened to Watch Kingsglaive? Watch Kingsglaive.
You need to watch Kingsglaive, and I'll talk about that in my spoiler section because I can't talk about that without giving plot points away.
I can.
I can't.
Let you finish.
But the first act of the story is naturally slow because it's an open world game. It's introducing you to the characters. Typically these are slow. I'll give it to them. Then the second act comes in. Up until I think Chapter 5, I consider that to be the second half of the game. Not second half, second act.
Say we ain't linear yet.
Second act, I think, is one of the best acts in the game. I think it's the second best act because I think that's where I think that the story and the gameplay and the characters were all in perfect harmony with each other, and everything was right. And I think that it was uphill, like for a moment. Like you could see a good ending, like final product. Everything looked fine.
I don't have my numbers right. Is that where they give us the atlas?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I won't give spoilers because, once again, because that does have some spoilers in it.
I mean that was a spoiler in it.
The fight.
They know about Atlas.
The fight itself is not a spoiler because it was in trailers and people knew that it was going to happen.
But they know what Atlas do.
Yeah, but that was where things were, I think, in my personal opinion, in perfect sync with each other. Then you get Act 3, which lasts until the end of Chapter 9. And oh boy, by the end of Act 3, the pacing like kind of picks up, but then like once you get to Chapter 9, like halfway through Chapter 9, the pacing goes off the rails. Like it's like you go doing 0 to 90 in 3 seconds, like that kind of like just insanity. And from there, the game goes at that breakneck pace until Act 5, which Act 5 starts off, I think, Chapter 13. Chapter 14. At the beginning of Chapter 14 is Act 5. That is when the game's pacing slows the hell down again. And I think that the final act is the best act of Final Fantasy 15 because I think that was originally, like, that's maybe not exactly what they wanted to do from the beginning, but I think that the final act was always, like, the one, the point in time that they had already predetermined, like, how it would happen. to an extent, and they did their best to like make the rest of the game like lead up to that point that they had in mind. Because endings and beginnings are always the easiest parts, in my opinion, of making a story. Like, you know where your characters want to end up typically, unless you don't, in which case the journey in between is the best part of the story, and the ending is secondary. But if you have your ending in mind from the beginning, your story, like, it's the beginning and the end that you're going to focus on, obviously. But it works. The final act does work very well for me. I wasn't too sure about it, but at the end, I gave it like 3 days after, and I had my peace with it. But that is all a result, once again, because of time constraints and just cuts to the story. Like, they did not have enough time to fully flesh out plot points, characters, and just locations even. Like, there are whole environments that we know got cut because we were promised them early on, and then they just never showed up because, like, time constraints, man. Like, that's a bitch, and that's just a fact of life.
Are you able to disclose what locations got cut without providing spoilers?
Oh yeah, these are back from like, these were planned from Versus 13. They were kept in the early stages of like the 2013, 2014 development of 15.
What locations were they?
A Tokyo like location that was very Japanese inspired. There was supposed to be a London inspired architecture or environment with like London style architecture.
In correlation to trailers and buildings, can you describe them for me, please?
There was supposed to be you remember Kingsglaive? Did you watch Kingsglaive yet?
Nope.
Okay, well, in Kingsglaive they talk about a lot of these other towns and cities that should have been in 15. And when we get to the spoiler section, once again, I'll give specifics like on plot points that should have been, that were in Kingsglaive, but they didn't even make it over into the final product of Final Fantasy 15. You can clearly see.
I'm just trying to figure out what these places are.
There was I don't remember their names, but there was like a desert location that was like a castle that like was like kind of like primitive in its conception. There was supposed to be more cities for you to explore. Lestalem late game, and that's as much as I'll say. Late game Lestalem was supposed to be explorable, but it wasn't able to. Like, they had a finished product, but they were not able to implement it. Like, that's the kind of shit. Like, they were cutting things like down to the wire, like assets they had already had and come up with, but they cut them for whatever reason. Because it would have meant more work in the long run. But the thing is, like, that's honestly it. Like, story cuts were made, and the story does suffer. Like, that is my honest opinion. Story is not fantastic by any means. It's not even great. It's just adequate. But the game does have a nice final act, and it does wrap up fairly well. Fairly well. I do say the ending has its problems too, but that's less the ending's fault and more of the game's fault, in my opinion. I'll get into that. But go ahead, and what do you think about the story, George?
I'll admit that the story kind of gets Swiss cheese up at a lot of points, and it sucks because when trying to talk about like the overall story, I would argue that it's pretty solid, but the story itself in game would be a different matter, because to get like all the exposition you need, you have to rely on additional content, like Final
Fantasy 13 too.
Well, not even that. Well, I guess that. I mean, much less in the whole thing where you get 13's true ending with DLC. and more like, you know, before playing 15, you know, watch Brotherhood, watch Kingsglaive. When you get the game, get the season pass so you get everybody's episode.
And I want you guys to realize too that like it was easier for them to make an extended universe with a film and an anime than it was for them to fit it all in the game. That's how tight of a schedule was there.
Do you remember the Red Ash Kickstarter?
No. Was that Agni's philosophy related?
No. Red Ash was not a Square Enix title at all. Red Ash was a attempted crowdfunding game by Mega Man creator Keiji Inafune.
Yeah.
Around the time he was working on Mighty Number 9, which, I mean, you heard how Mighty Number 9 went. Before funding and development for Mighty Number 9 was even finished, he wanted to go ahead and crowdfund another game. And before that could even get crowdfunded, on top of his initial game, he was prepared to have anime series, animated film, think in the form of OVA or something. He was just that ready to delve into all of that extra stuff before even getting into developing the game, before even finishing the game that was at the time being crowdfunded.
Right. Well, and I think that's kind of applicable here. I don't know, man. Like, it really is sad because, you know, the extended universe, it's fine to have an extended universe. Like, I don't have any problems with them having an anime or a film to expand on the story with. But all Kingsglaive was, and I've said this before, was moments from the trailers that they just couldn't put in the game and make it work with the product that they had to run with. Like, Kingsglaive is all about insomnia, like, during Chapter 1. No spoilers, but Kingsglaive does have plot points that are never explored or explained that should have been in 15 that were originally planned to tie in with the greater story of 15 that they just abandoned because Kingsglaive was made a while back ago and they had already made cuts to the story, and then they did their best to cut Kingsglaive to like make it make as much sense as possible. That's why they're patching 15 now, because Ravis's character, no spoilers, has much more development and motivation in Kingsglaive than he does in the actual game of Final Fantasy 15. And that's a travesty.
I don't know. I ain't like him.
No one liked him. That's the thing. Like, no one knew if they had to like him or not. He didn't do anything. Like, I'm not spoiling anything. Like, he didn't do anything that made sense. And that's why they're patching it, because they're trying to give his character a little bit more depth post-game. That's wrong. They should not have to do that. That tells you that they fucked up as far as scheduling. And I don't know whose fault it is. I blame Square personally, like, as a company, not Tabata, because Tabata... My thing is that, like, Tabata, while I don't agree with some of his stylistic choices, I think that he was given a deadline, and he said, well, fuck it, I'm going to make the best fucking game I can in the time that I have, and I'm going to make it my vision. I don't want it to be anybody else's vision. He made his own thing. Whether or not I like his own theme is on me, but he did the best he could. He delivered a finished product, and he released it. And they actually are getting pretty positive reviews on his product, even though that they know that they've admitted by releasing all these patches and talking about like what updates to the game and enhancements to the story, like they know it wasn't finished. They won't ever come out and say, oh, it wasn't finished, but they know, and that this is their way of subtly acknowledging it. And I respect Tabata for doing what he's done. Do I think that 15 would have been a better game with a tighter story if Nomura had worked on it?
No.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No.
15 would have been much more evenly paced. It might have made less sense.
It'd
It
be
might have
evenly
made less
paced,
sense.
but it'd have made much less sense.
That's true. That's the only take back.
Oh my
If 15
god,
would
the
have,
KH storyline is a.
but it makes sense
Is
if
a
you delve
sitting-
into it. Nomura never does
a
anything
sitting
without a reason, and
example.
that's something I respect him for. Even if it doesn't make any sense if you don't dig, that's how all Final Fantasies are. 13, if you don't know the mythology of the Fabio Nova Crystallis, if you had no idea what the fuck that was, it wouldn't be lost on you if you played all of the 13 trilogy, because eventually they get into it, but knowing that knowing the background
that's
to
the
that,
point of Lightning. Well, that's the point of the latter two games at that point.
yeah, but knowing that backstory and that mythology makes so much things make more sense in 13 and 13-2. Even reading the data log, like, the story's as deep as you want to take it. It's like a rabbit hole. You dig as deep as you want to, and you find more shit the deeper you go. And you've got some real gold nuggets in there, but people don't want to dig that deep. And that's the way Final Fantasy's always been. Optional. It has optional content. 6, the best game, or considered the best game by a lot of people in the franchise, a lot of the story points you can just outright skip. Character arcs you could just not do.
I mean, I agree with you on optional content.
You could kill a character accidentally, but and not have his story resolved at all because of your mistake. And the game is as deep as you want to make it, and that's the perfect analogy for a Final Fantasy game. Like, it's enjoyable and accessible to everybody, and it should be. And I think 15 is accessible to everybody. But I also agree that a story should be, as far as story elements, a Final Fantasy should be as deep as you want it to go. You remember, this is spoilers for 7, by the way. You remember, like, when you got to the Snow Village after the end of Disc 1, and you, like, see the tapes by Hojo? I missed those, like, my first 3 playthroughs, and then I looked them up on YouTube on accident. I saw them, and I was like, what the hell are these?
How do you look them up?
I was looking at a Let's Play to see if there was any items that I missed, and then they went to that house and watched the tapes. I was like, holy shit, I didn't know that was there.
So you were looking for them. You weren't looking specifically for them, but you were looking for something.
Yeah.
Then it wasn't an accident.
It was kind of an accident.
You were looking for something you missed, and that fit the category.
But still, the point of it is that it enhanced my understanding of the story and my experience of the story, and it made it richer and deeper, but you got to dig and find it. And that's how I think a Final Fantasy story should be. You get out of it what you put in. If you don't put in a lot of it into it, you don't get a lot out of it. But the problem with 15's story is that, like, even when you go as deep as you want to, there's still not much you can glean from it because the story isn't fully realized. And that is a terrible, terrible travesty. And I wish that the story was better. I honestly, like, that's what I want. And I want a Final Fantasy game with, like, a perfect balance between the two. Again, because, in my opinion, I think that 7 is the most balanced game of Final Fantasy. Is it the best, in my opinion? No. Not in the slightest. But I think that 7 balances... no, fuck that. I think 8 is the best game. That's my objective opinion. Not my subjective opinion would be 6. Because I think that of the retro Final Fantasies, 6 does everything right with what they were the hardware that they given. It was the most fully realized Final Fantasy up to date. And then as the hardware improved, like, over the generations, I don't think any of them fully realized their capabilities. But I think that 7 was the most balanced. Personal favorite, still 8. Don't care what anybody says. Anyway, that's a tangent.
Yeah, don't do those.
Final Fantasy 15 would benefit so much more from having a linear story, and that, like, that was a much tighter and was more evenly paced. If it had that, With the game that we got, if they could somehow implement that, I think that it easily could have gotten into like 9.5 territory, like in far as scores, because it deserves that 8.4 that it got. Honestly, I give it an 8.
Oh.
And that's because I think that it does a lot of things right, and I think it has saved the franchise. It really has saved the franchise, in my opinion, but it needs improvement. But that's all for the non-spoiler section. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening and you don't want to be spoiled on 15, turn off the video. And we'll put in, I'll ask George right now. When we're done, can you put like a minute marker in the video, like when we, after that, in like the comment section, or not the comment section.
Annotation?
An annotation, yeah, like saying when we stop talking about spoilers, because that's going to be for, actually it's going to be for most of the rest of the spoiler. I mean, the rest of the video.
I guess it'll be the first post-production thing I've done.
Yeah, exactly.
I never did do the rest of those things I said I was going to do.
I know.
Well,
how in the hell have you guys been talking about this for about an hour and not gotten to spoilers yet?
Because I think the general...
You know how long Brian talks for?
It's been about an hour.
Exactly.
I think I've fallen asleep like 5 times.
Okay,
it's
now
good to
you're
hear your voice,
exaggerating.
Shelly. Anyway. 15 seconds, and I'll count down for you. And also...
no, don't count down. I will just edit. Look, if you ain't trying to hear spoilers, bye, Felicia.
Also, step away from your mic for a second. Like your headphones, because I'm about to shout. And let me give you a countdown for that.
Yeah, because he's about to turn left, and he doesn't want to smack you with his dick.
Exactly. This is going to be my rant coming out, and like something I've been wanting to get off my chest since day one. All right? Pull away now. Watch your ears.
No, everybody pull out.
On 3. 1, 2, 3. Fuck Arden's final boss fight!
Really?
Fuck that shit! I
hate
that fight! I hate it! It's awful! It fucking sucks!
You got bodied by Arden?
No, it's not not that I got bodied. It was a terrible fight. There was no challenge in that fight. It was given to me on a silver platter. They set up the fight. To have a final form. I heard rumor once again that they had a final form ready to go, but they cut it because it had too much issues with the engine, and they didn't want to like do anything else with it because they had to release the game. Even Yoko's soundtrack for that fight, not her best work. In fact, it's almost one of the most terrible tracks in the game. I don't like it. I don't like that final boss fight. It sucks.
I don't remember how it sounded.
Fucking awful. And let me tell you how awful it is.
I'm about to go back and listen.
Specifically listen to the very end of the song where the lady with the vocals is like screeching.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna listen to the whole thing. You gonna
the screeching vocal. Okay, the screeching vocals at the end are like the particularly bad. But
particularly?
Yes, I can't say that word. That boss fight offered no challenge because all it is that you fight Arden. He has
Armiger.
The same exact power. He has Armiger. The same exact powers. He can do everything you can. He can teleport if you do a point warp. He can go to you. He can fuck you up if he wants to. And I say fuck you. I say fuck you up loosely because you know what I did to survive that fight?
You warp strike when he warp strike.
No, I used 4 potions because I just didn't care. Because I realized very early on, I said, this is not a strategy. This is not a fight that requires strategy. It just requires persistence. And it's here to look cool. And my biggest gripe with the fight, not the visuals, because the visuals were astounding. When it got into its second phase, that was fine. It looked fine, and it played fine, and it was good. but they should have saved that for after the final boss fight. Arden had the demons of almost the entire verse inside of him. He was a fucking, like, he was Legion. He's Legion from the Bible. They literally had all the assets and the possibility and the reasoning to give him a final form that would have involved all 4 party members. By the way, you don't fight this guy with 4 party members. You fight him with Noctis. In like a very bullshit cliche, like, oh, they don't belong in this battle of kings. It's only fit for the 2 of us. I was like, bullshit. You didn't want to make a fight that involved all 4 of them because it would have been not challenging enough. But you nerfed Noctis on purpose to make it somewhat of a challenge. And it's not even that. Not even that. I never used a high potion. I never used an elixir. Never got in danger enough to use both of them, to be honest. I just used a potion whenever I got a little bit below half health. 4 times. 4 potions. That final boss fight sucks.
Okay, I remember this now. I got the song playing.
Let's
play Smash. Died.
It's okay. That is the most insulting final boss fight I've ever played in a Final Fantasy, and I thought that the worst final boss fight I'd ever played had been for Type 0. You couldn't die. There was no possible way to die. And it was mostly just tough it out as all of your characters slowly get killed off. Spoilers, by the way. I don't give a fuck.
You're in the spoiler part.
I know. It's for a different game.
When you're in the spoiler part for one game, all games count.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Fuck this final boss fight. I'm done with my rant. It was terribly designed. I could have come up with a better design. Honestly, Yoko could have come up with a better final boss track. That's what this final boss track doesn't even sound like a final boss. It sounds like a first form. And that's what I kept expecting, because I wonder if they release a bonus CD, if she'll have like the true final boss fight on that CD.
You just fight to Somnus.
That's honestly what I would have wanted. Just like, instead of like that awful like female vocalist that they used for the Magna Insomnia, they could have just had like a choir just like singing Somnus in the background to like more bombastic music, and not the quiet tones of Magna Insomnia. It just doesn't.
Or Somnus Ultima.
Somnus Ultima is not that. That's from the ending movie when he kills Arden.
Exactly.
And he does like the dream drop distance thing with all of his family and friends behind him. He does the fairy tale power up.
You see him do that Omnislash though?
He did an Omnislash. He did Omnislash with Knights of the Round. That was cool as shit. I like the ending.
He did it again against Leviathan.
He did. Armature? Yeah, when Luna gave him his power up. I love the summon fights in this game, because Titan, like I said before, the Titan fight, everything came to a head for me, because at that point the story's been going at a slower pace, and then it finally picks up and we're getting like some serious hardcore plot, and I felt like the relationship between Noctis and his friends was at its peak too, because Noctis was having like issues. He was being a brat like the entire first act of the game, but then Titan forces him to kind of like accept that like he's a king, and he starts growing up. He doesn't like, by the end of the game, like Noctis's character growth is astounding, literally and figuratively. Like, he's cool as shit. He's one of my favorite Final Fantasy protagonists of all time now. I think he's 3rd on my list, because Squall, Cloud. I take that back.
You and your edgelords.
I don't know. Maybe Noctis is number 2. No, Noctis is number 2. Squall, Noctis, and then fucking that's who it is. Cecil.
I was finna say, have you forgotten the matchup already?
Yeah, like, I love Cecil, and honestly, like, Noctis reminds me of like the perfect like blend between Squall's personality, Cecil's dilemmas, and then fucking Cloud's stoicism and power. and then the brokenness of Firion in Dissidia, plus the final form mobility of Sora. He's broken as fuck. And I love it. I love Noctis's character. I love his powers. I love how the game looks when he uses his power. Like, this is a beautiful looking game in terms of animation and quality. And the Leviathan fight was great too. But like I said, the Titan fight was where all of those elements of character and things, like everything was looking up from that point. And it was the perfect amount of hype. They were playing Apocalypsis Noctis. It was chaotic. It was cool. You felt like it was a fun fight. Like, it wasn't overly challenging, but it was cinematic as hell. And the Leviathan fight was fun too, but it just didn't leave the same impact, because at that point it's like the Genova birth thing. Like, after Aerith dies in 7, you had to fight a Genova form. I died to that Genova form the first time I fought it, because I was so focused on Aerith that I wasn't really paying attention to the boss fight. That's the same thing with Leviathan. They kill Luna almost right before. She gets stabbed. She doesn't die, but she gets stabbed by Arden. You're like, fuck, because I was like, oh my god, like, did they just kill a major character? I was like, they just killed her off. I was like, there's no way. I was like, well, she didn't have any screen time. She had 3 cutscenes, and
That's
then a
what
movie.
I was thoroughly upset about. They gave her the Atlas.
Yeah,
It's
she
like,
like,
look, we're gonna make you love her. You don't know nothing about her, but we're gonna make you love her.
Yeah,
and then
she's
we're gonna
sweet.
take her from you.
Luna would have been a better character, and I hear that she was supposed to have a darker and grittier backstory, but because it involved elements of abuse, that Square was kind of wondering if they should put it in, because they didn't know how well it would be received in the Western audience.
I mean, I already kind of felt it looking at Ravis, some head.
Not from Ravis specifically, because this is spoilers for Kingsglaive, but like, Luna's hometown's been occupied by the Empire, right? So she's been under constant surveillance, and the Empire.
I mean, that's not a spoiler.
Yeah, like, but the Empire's generals, or like whoever was there, were supposed to have abused her and made her life a living hell. And she was also supposed to be suffering from like the fucking what's it called from Advent Children? Geostigma. She basically has geostigma because she's the Oracle, and her body's like has constant cancer status, and like the more she does covenants with the gods, the more her body breaks down, and there's supposed to be more graphic imagery. And
Is
they
it not
also
the same for the Lucian Kings though.
For the Lucian Kings, it was supposed to be that the crystal drains your life force. Like, that's the thing. Like, once Noctis put on the ring, like, you could feel his life force was being drained. Because he mentioned it one time in the game. He says, whenever I use the power of like my Lucian power, like Armature or things like that, he said, or Warp Strike, he said it makes him dizzy and tired. But that was the extent of it. By the way, you remember when Noctis falling asleep at inopportune times was supposed to be a major plot point? We didn't see shit in this game about that. You remember how? No, we didn't.
Prompto got the pictures.
See, we didn't see shit about that. That wasn't a major plot point, though, because remember that they said that was going to be important. Also, remember when they said that the biggest character arc in this game was going to be the bond between father and son? We didn't see shit about that either, because they wrote Regis out of the fucking game. They wrote him out of the game. Regis had 3 lines. Regis had 3 lines, or a little bit more in the beginning cutscene. He never talks again. And they were saying, remember when they were giving all those trailers, like the trailer where Regis was holding Noctis as a baby, and you were like, yeah, this is supposed to, like, the biggest, they were talking about, like, the relationship between Noctis and his father. Even in the Platinum demo, Noctis says, my safe place is in the car with my dad. And then he leaves the kingdom, and then he's, like, a dick to his dad, and then his dad's dead, and they just never talk about how his dad's dead and how he feels that his dad's dead. But then they try and tie it in together when the Regalia wrecks in Chapter 13. They're like, oh, yeah, it was like Dad was with us all the time. I was like, no, it wasn't. You didn't say shit about him being with you in the form of a car. Don't try and pull that shit on me.
I was salty when that happened, though. It's like, dude, my whip, though.
Exactly. here's another thing with story cuts, because that's my biggest rant, because I'm talking about specific things now. Remember how the title sequence, like the title card, was supposed to be the main patron god of Eos, and the summons were just messengers?
Now
They made the summons gods.
That's where I got to back you up. Not to say that you're wrong, but to say that you're I guess for lack of a better phrase, your anger for that is kind of misplaced.
It is misplaced, but like, it doesn't impact the story that much. But the thing is that, like, they're promising different things in the game and in the movies and in everything else. They even have Etro and fucking Kingsglaive in the background.
Well, that's what I'm talking about when I say it's misplaced, because it's an expression of disdain for elements that were introduced, like in Versus 13 development, in Fabula Nova Crystallis connections, and
but these are things that they kept as late. These are things that they kept as late as Kingsglaive, though.
Down though.
But they kept them in Kingsglaive, George.
Well, remember how long you said they had Kingsglaive before finishing the game?
But still, they had it ready. They've released Kingsglaive to the public in its final form. You remember how? No, you don't, because you didn't watch the movie. In the movie, the main character, Nyx, keeps hearing the voices of his dead sister and his family members, like, and all of the people who, like, the Kingsglaive members, they use the crystal basically through King Regis, because King Regis gives them the ability to tap into the power of the crystal through a bond with him. Because once Regis dies, then they can't use magic and they can't do warp strikes or anything. And Nyx ends up putting on the ring of the Luci, and he bargains with the kings because they're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He's like, "Hey man, I gotta save the city." He's like, "I gotta
Dormammu, I've come to bargain."
He's like, I gotta do something, man." And they're like, "No, fuck you." But Regis, when he's dead, he's like, "Hey guys, he's cool. We could trust him. He has a good heart." And they're like, "Yeah, we'll let you get your power. You're gonna die by sunset." Conveniently writing him out of the plot, by the way.
Look, man, Aaron probably had to keep making episodes of the path.
But the thing is that, like, the reason all those soldiers and, like, were having motion sickness or, like, throwing up when they're using their magic, and the reason Nyx was hearing, like, the voices of his dead sister constantly is because the original concept for the crystal was that it was a dark crystal, that people weren't supposed to use it, and then that's the only people who were supposed to use it really were the Lucius line. But and the side effect of that was that, like, it was like Chaos from 13. That the souls of, like, everybody who's dead in 15, that they went into the crystal, and there was, like, another dimension that, like, was connected to the crystal, and that's where it got its power, and that it was kind of a chaotic force more than a good force. That it was kind of like chaotic neutral, essentially. But that was explored, maybe. It was introduced as a concept in Kingsglaive very subtly, but it was never fully explored in 15 because they made cuts to the story. Like, the crystal was officially, like, the harbinger of light, the solution to all our problems, and they made, instead of, like, other gods who ruled over Eos with, like, the female title card and stuff, they made the summons gods, because the summons weren't supposed to be gods. They were supposed to be messengers. They even talk about it in 15, like how Gentiana is supposed to be, like, a messenger of the gods. No, she is a god. And they're just like, "Ah, fooled you. She was Shiva all along." No, that's just you disguising. That's just you disguising the fact that you made a story cut. There was supposed to be a dungeon for Shiva too. Like, they had finished, or allegedly, because that's in the leak that was on 4chan in that video. Like, the guy that said he was an employee, he said allegedly that there was a dungeon that the programmers had worked on for the final product of Shiva, and that for something or another that was, like, an issue with, like, game length or, like, time constraints or whatever, the engine giving them troubles, that they had to scrap it, and they just gave us the tiny little area that we fought in instead. And Shiva came to us naturally. and you didn't actually have to fight Shiva. Now that's fine, like, but that's still a disappointment. And Dark World, the Dark World, which is amazing, by the way. That I loved what they did with the Dark World in 15 because it's a callback to 6. Almost at 16. Hold on, Shelly just brought something disconcerting to my attention.
Disconcerting. Sure.
Disconcerting.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Of course. Anyway, you were saying...
Anyway, the Dark World... Anyway, anyway, the Dark World
yes.
in Final Fantasy 15 is expertly done. It looks amazing. Had great setup. That you were supposed to be able to explore the Dark World and find your party members, allegedly, one by one. Once again, calling back to that tradition of 6. I would have loved that because that was the formula of 6 that I really enjoyed. You had all those party members and you had to get them back. And through that, you explore their separate character arcs and you develop them even further. Old Lestalm, or not Old Lestalm, Lestalm was explained to be a shelter, but they ended up cutting it even though they had it ready as a final product. They just didn't put it in the game for whatever reason. But you could explore Lestalm and you could meet Iris like post time skip, which that might be included in DLC. I'm not going to complain about that yet. But Iris was there. You could find Prompto. You could find Ignis. You could find Gladio. Like, it would be like a collecting your friends kind of thing instead of just like, hey, let's get Talbot to drive me to my friends. Was it Talcott?
Talcott.
Okay, not Talbot. Let's get Talcott to drive me to where I need to be, and see all the demons on the way, but not actually participate in killing them. Except for that initial section, that was actually kind of balls for me for a second. But anyway, they had the option to do that, and they were ready to go forward with it. But once again, time constraints, coding issues, the engine issues. They had to change up the Leviathan fight several times, and we knew this because they told us. Because the Luminous engine couldn't handle that much shit, and they had to find a way to make it work because they couldn't make it work the way that they wanted it to, and make it look good with frame rate and shit like that. But once again, like, that's minor stuff, and they made it work in the end. But the point is that, like, this game has been sliced in fucking half. And I want to talk about one more thing before I hand the wheel over to you, George. For a bit.
Will I really get it?
Oh yeah, you'll get it. Character arcs. And I want to talk about character arcs because this is important to do a story too. But who gets a character arc in 15? I want you to tell me. Answer it.
Even I know that answer.
Alright, so that boy Noctis, right?
Yeah.
And then
Don't bother answering anybody else because they don't get one.
And then we got that boy Ignis.
Ignis has a kind of character arc, but not really because he doesn't have an end to it. Ignis is the only other character besides Noctis that gets some kind of development, but it's not an arc.
Would you argue that there's none in sight?
Yes, the joke. He's blind. I get it, but that's not an arc. That's just something that happened to him that he has to adapt to. But it doesn't deal with his character, really. He has a sensitive moment in Chapter 11, but that's it. We don't talk about it again. He's fine by Chapter 14. He still can't see, but he can fight the way he was, and they don't explore his blindness or how it makes him feel like a burden, really. They just kind of glaze over it. Noctis gets a talking to, and the group got together.
That's where episode Ignis comes in the season pass.
That's what I'm not talking about. Like, I'm not going to be like too harping on it because I know that they'll probably explore that blindness.
Sounds like Iron-Blooded Orphans did it better.
They did do it better, but the thing is,
same thing happened in Iron-Blooded Orphans.
Like literally this past
similar.
episode.
Yeah.
Wow.
But Oh shit! What am I trying to say? No other character besides Noctis gets a complete character arc. Regis gets killed in the first chapter, never shows up again, never discussed his relationship with his son or anything like that, his subjects, never again. Ever again. Gladio, Prompto gets like a plot twist, which it wasn't even a good plot twist because I didn't even expect it to begin with. I forgot he had a
boys.
I forgot he had a barcode, and I remembered. I had to think about it when I heard it. I was like, "Oh shit!" They did talk about that in interviews and in screenshots that he had a barcode. They were asking. I remember them asking about it. It was like, and Nomura was like, "I don't fucking know," and they made it a plot point. I was like, "Oh shit!" But there's no reason for you. Even when he's talking about it, they don't show the barcode. It's under his glove.
Well, I mean, that's your own fault in outfit selection.
But still, no other character gets a complete character art. And even though they're talking about like how the friends and the brotherhood as like the central theme of this, and now Stand By Me's the theme song of the show of the fucking game.
No, Somnus is still the main theme.
Somnus is the main theme. Don't even lie to yourself.
That's what I said. Somnus is still the main theme.
Oh, I know. I'm talking to the audience. Like,
oh.
And the Brotherhood isn't even that important. It's just it makes the game more relatable, and the characters are fleshed out in the sense of like quirks and personalities, motivations, like what they feel inside. You don't get any
about why Iris has the hard on for Noctis.
That's in Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Gladio, like that's what Brotherhood does. It gives their relationship why they're with Noctis, but like the characters don't have any personal motivations besides, or personalities besides wanting to help out their bro. Like, and I understand like there's something sweet and genuine about that, but you have to explore these characters as separate entities. Even Arden, the main villain, like the guy that does the voice for Arden, fantastic delivery. He hams it up like a genius, and I love it. But Arden's character is basically, he's a disgruntled white mage that became a demon. And now he has the potential to bring down the verse.
This is why you should have watched Madoka Magica, because Arden's a magical girl.
Yeah.
See,
I guess, sure, why not? But still, like,
okay, not caring whether I spoil this for you or not.
Yeah, go ahead.
The explanation behind that is in so how it works in Madoka Magica is you're granted a soul gem or whatever, which, you know, if it's separate, you know, your soul is in it. If it's separated from your body, you know, your body collapses, whatever. But magical girls go and kill witches, collect their greed seeds or whatever. When they collect like an excessive amount of greed seeds, or, you know, just the amount of darkness that comes within them, it has the potential to, you know, overflow the gem, and as a result, you become a witch yourself. That's Arden.
Exactly. Like, and
Arden was like, let me slay so many demons, I become one.
And the thing that pissed me off the most about Arden was he's like, oh, my name is Arden, not Noctis, Lucius Calum. And he's like, you'll never guess who Azunia's name was, and they never talk about it. He just says it.
What the heck is in Azunia?
Azunia is his name, Arden Azunia, the one he gives them. And speculation among fans is that Azunia refers to like the name of the king that betrayed Arden, that he took on his name, which led to a few other fan theories that I'm not going to get into here. But apparently, Arden may have had a thing for Shiva.
Are you getting into more fan theory?
No, not that. That's just like based on what we see, because you remember seeing the cosmology book.
Okay, so we are. Got it.
That's not fan theory. Like, you remember seeing the cosmology book. Like,
yeah,
Arden's on the cover along with Bahamut and Shiva, and it's him getting a power. from them because he was the one that got the initial power to like heal
Yeah.
kings, or not kings, but people. He's on that book because that's how fucking old he is. But and they even
Forever.
talk about it later on that he's an ancient text, like involving the gods and whatnot. Like his name shows up, but
He is.
he
Etro's
doesn't
champion.
have a character arc. He's just mad. They don't explore what he was mad. They don't explore the pain he went through. It's assumed. It's all assumed.
Maybe he's mad because Square Enix isn't giving him the exposition he deserves.
And don't even get me started on Ifrit too, because
Okay,
Ifrit is Satan in this game, and it makes sense because the whole Hellfire thing. Like Ifrit's always been a threatening-looking summon. They don't explain like the relationship. Like, why did Ifrit agree to help Arden? Aside from Ifrit just wants to see humanity burn and die.
I mean,
like that's it. Ifrit doesn't even get a line of dialogue.
This isn't me trying to counter your argument. I legitimately just see that as a reason, and I'm kind of okay with that. That's not for the sake of defending it. That's just like, well,
what is a reason?
That makes sense.
Just that he wants to be that he wants humanity to burn.
Yeah.
See, I'd be inclined to believe that, but Ifrit has the status of a god in this verse. He's not a messenger like they wanted us to believe initially. He's a god. He influences. He betrayed the other 5. And I was like, what makes him want to team up with a human or someone who's originally human? Like, you got to explore that plot point. And once again, with the Chaos Crystal theory, or
Chaos number.
Fucking yeah, whatever.
You said that, and I was just like, you mean the Chaos symbols?
But that whole theory, like, there was a speculation, even with the Omen trailer, like people were, I myself included, were thinking that like the crystal was a malevolent, malevolent force that housed like a deeper like god of the verse that would come out and like that wanted ill will towards humans eventually, that didn't care how many he killed, that like they were kind of like subservient to.
That would drive Noctis to kill Luna a la Versus 13.
Yeah, that was a plot point of Versus 13. That he was supposed to have killed Stella.
In self-defense.
Of course. But they have so much setup and subtle setup of like different plot points, and like they did it. And I know I'm nitpicking, but it doesn't work. Like if you're gonna do it, you need to completely cut it and make a final product that fits with your vision. You don't need to say, you don't need to say in an interview about 9 months before the game's released that, oh yes, the title card, that's what's her face, god of patron goddess of Eos. Like she's not Etro, but she has similarities to Etro, and then release the game, and then in a reveal that I actually quite like, by the way, make it reveal that the girl on the title card is Luna laying on Noctis's arm. Like that was kind of awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Like I love that ending. I love that whole.
I like that. I tripped out because I'm like, what the heck?
I was like, oh fuck.
Etro, please.
Because I actually did think that was like, oh, that's what they're getting it from, like that title card. Because I was like, I saw her sleep on his arm. I was like, that's cute, and I also know where it comes from. And then they actually changed the title card. I was like, oh well, I'm smart. But the game. Go ahead and talk, George, because I want to hear your opinion. Because this is getting into like the final product. You have the floor. Counter me, agree with me, whatever.
You wanted me to finish the game before I delved into any further argument. Now that I have done that, I guess for the most part I'll say my piece. As a game, and I don't know, maybe it's because I'm obscure, maybe it's because I have awful taste, whatever. The ending happened, and I guess I wasn't left feeling empty as a result. As a matter of fact, because there were so many things I wanted to wonder about, it actually like kind of led me to discussion and to ask questions. It it left me wanting more, but not in a bad way to where I feel like, they didn't supply me with enough. But because I know there's more content on the way, it kind of almost makes me feel like I anticipated. I was gonna say anticipatory, but I don't know if that's a word. Drew was actually in the room when I finished the game, and I we saw the ending where there we are, Noctis and Luna, and everything's fine,
and they're dead. They are deader than dead. They are 10 times dead. Over. Fuck, they're dead.
Well, that I say that didn't have him convinced. That wasn't his assumption. He was under the belief that maybe something had changed as a result of killing Arden. And this is more so him than me. So I guess just kind of hear it out.
Oh, yeah.
A big point of the Fabula Nova Crystallis, in spite of the fact that this game had the tendency to greatly shy away from its roots of, struggle with Etro, Bunavelza, whoever that third person is who I always forget.
Moen?
I think so.
Yeah, it was Etro's mom. Not Etro, Bunavelza's mom.
Yeah. But essentially it'd been about restructuring, rewriting, kind of enlisting upon the help of, or even, betraying the divine in order to, I guess, change the world, in a sense. Like, that becomes the thing, that becomes the overarching theme in 13, to change their own worlds, to drive against their focus or complete it. In 13 too, you time travel and rewrite time. And then in Lightning Returns, like, Lightning kills Bunavelza and, pushes hard reset on everything. Part 6 JoJo's Let's Go. And seeing that scene at the end of 15, accompanied with an unexplained time skip just from having, like, paid Bahamut a visit, and other things such as, like, the use of Umbra to travel into the past, kind of make me wonder if, if anything was undone, if the world, like, was rewritten. And I await, like, confirmation over whether any of that made a difference or not.
And we'll probably get that.
And if not, whatever.
We'll honestly probably get that in Ultimania. Because my impression when I beat the game, I was like, well, they're in the afterlife. I was like, Noctis is dead, because I sure as hell know Luna was dead. And Noctis is in a different outfit. He looks younger in this than he did when he killed Arden. He looks more. He looked like Squall a fuck ton, actually.
Sure.
What I assumed is that, like, that was supposed to be what it would have happened, but that they were just in the afterlife, and that the fact that they're going to sleep, because death is such a prominent theme of Final Fantasy 15 and Versus 13. I was like, they're dead. That was what them going to sleep was. Is they're sleeping in peace, together in the afterlife, and that they're just kind of in a stasis. And whether or not, like, it's an afterlife that they can interact with other souls, like Chaos, like how Chaos kind of functioned in the universe of Lightning Returns and Final Fantasy 13. I wondered if that was true, but I wasn't gonna, like, go into too much detail about it. They're dead. Like, that's what I took away from it. Was like they didn't jump the shark with it. They went ahead, made it as realistic as possible. Noctis gave his life up. Luna was gonna die eventually because she was giving her life up, but then Arden expedited the process. Why, I don't really know, besides to give Noctis motivation to kill him. but I was satisfied with the ending. Like, it was a good ending, solid ending. Didn't feel forced. I think that was what they mostly had planned to do. I didn't like how they didn't confirm or deny what happened to everyone else in the world. I
They're all
did like
dead. What'd you expect?
yeah, like, and that's what I'm waiting on DLC for, because I'm almost positive we'll get an epilogue DLC. But I did like I don't know, like, because this ties into what I was saying about like the characters not having their own separate character arcs. Like, we didn't need an epilogue because they didn't really have anything that they were trying to achieve besides the freedom of insomnia. And in that sense, they did whatever they had to do, and they don't need, the plot doesn't need them anymore. I did like everything that the ending tried to do. I said that it was realistic. I thought that they did a good job. They stuck with their guns. Noctis had to give up his life. Luna gave up her life. And that was the end of it. I don't know how. One of my questions, my biggest questions, is that, like, how is the line of Lucius gonna continue?
Drew asked that.
Like, how is that gonna work without a crystal? Or did the crystal even survive?
There's no telling.
Because how much of a hard reset did that light of the crystal thing do?
Well, that's why we assume the world was rewritten, as opposed to like that being the afterlife. Because you have to
hopefully
imagine
the world got rewritten to be Final Fantasy Versus 13, and they'll release that game in 2020.
Yeah, you have to imagine.
I swear to God,
the ramifications of like the line of Lucis like being wiped out, and then there not being an oracle to take up the mantle anymore.
I mean, unless Prompto just made a baby Noctis.
They probably
because technically they did. Because technically they did have cloning technology capabilities, and all of them must have his DNA in some way, shape, or form. I will say, the post-credit scene got me, and that was probably the strongest I felt about the Brotherhood since the Titan fight, because otherwise their relationship with each other was just okay. It was all right. But those were the two moments I felt like it was genuine, it was heartwarming, and it was real. Because I think that's as real of a conversation as they could have had together. Like, it was a last meal together.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I think I still stand by my statement that I think if Nomura would have written this game and done this and had full reign over it, it would have had a tighter and more enjoyable story.
That would have made less sense.
But if you'd gone deeper into it, it would have made more sense and been more poetic. Because you can't go that deep with 15 because the story's all over the place because they've made so many cuts and had to compromise.
I guess tracing back to the source of the debacle, I personally still find it as a considerable game of the year.
And I think that that's justified from a gameplay perspective. Now, the reason that I would say that it's not Game of the Year is just simply because of its story, because you could tell that it was an unfinished game.
I mean,
in a sense, it's a finished game, but it's got so many holes in it. You can tell that, like, it's not as finished as they wanted it to be, and they're trying to fix that very subtly and very slowly.
I mean, they fix it using outsourced content. But when you look at the VGAs, which nobody looks at the VGAs, Overwatch got Game of the Year. And the only way you get any kind of clue into Overwatch's story is by reading outside material, going to the comics, going to the wiki, watching the animated trailers. Know what I mean?
But that's the nature of the beast with Overwatch. It's a shooter. What shooter do you know that has an amazing
Genre
story?
shouldn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah, but
The
we're
game
talking
being the
about
game.
genre.
You can still get as much story out of a shooter from playing its campaign. Overwatch lacks that.
You're right, but at
And
the same time, it's a stylistic choice of the tropes of the time. They chose to stick with the tropes of the time and not let them lose a story.
It still managed to reach acclaim through other elements of its being. And
Okay.
I will argue that 15, be that as it may, is a JRPG, and a key component of a JRPG is story, still makes up enough in its other content and what bit of a story currently exists in broad comparison to like its development time, that for me personally, leaving others out of the equation, it solidified its place as a good game of the year for 2016, of course, because 17, it's obviously going to be Legend of Zelda: The Phantom Pain.
I mean, that's fine.
If it comes out in 2017.
It will.
They don't have a choice to switch that sell somehow.
That's going to be a Nintendo implemented date. Like, the company itself said you've got to have that date out by then, or that game out by then. But anyway, I agree with what you're saying, George. And I do respect your opinion. I think it's right to want 15 to be a game of the year, and it's right to believe that it is based on gameplay alone, and also like the feel and look of the world. I'm more critical because, and this ties into my next point of discussion, what 15 can do to improve itself. Because this has a lot to do with like Tabata saying that like Final Fantasy fans who are longtime fans have like Final Fantasy disease, and that they're not open to change and whatnot. That's a lie. Because we've been open.
Is it that you've taken offense to Tabata's statement? Is that what that is?
No, like it's not that I've taken offense to it, but like it ties into the idea, because I do have ideas about what Final Fantasy 16 could do to improve upon what 15 has given us.
See,
but it also relates back to what
that statement's called damage controlling.
What, Tabata's statement or mine?
Tabata's.
Exactly. I think, and I say that in the most loving way possible, because I think that he needed enough confidence, like from the public, in his product, and he had enough confidence that he was going to put out a good game. He did put out a good game. He delivered on that aspect, and I think that he needed to he needed to throw out throw down the gauntlet and say like, hey, like fuck you, like go buy my game anyway. It's good. You need to get over it. Like the people who were bitching, and there were people who were bitching and just unruly about it, because like I remember people like were upset. They're like, the first half's open world and the second half's linear. Why do we need linear Final Fantasies? Like, bitch, Final Fantasy's always been linear, whether you want it to want to deny it or not.
Hasn't Final Fantasy always been linear?
It's had open world elements, but it's not been a true open world experience, because
15,
you've always been.
15, 13 got them hallways, dog.
13 has the hallways, and that's unfortunate, because that's the most notable open world experience of Final Fantasy. But remember 10, where you couldn't backtrack back to other places you'd visited until like I think 90% done with the game? Remember 7, where you were basically gridlocked on to progressing until you unlocked like the airship? And even then, like, yeah, like, until you unlock the airship to like land on different patches of crashes and whatnot, you're just landlocked, and that comes fairly late in the game. 6, same thing. Like, you don't get the airship until like a little bit in the first half, and then you're landlocked again immediately. And like there's obstacles like conveniently placed in every Final Fantasy game that impede your progress because they're trying to make sure that you're at a certain point, that you don't sequence break, and that you're not over or under too underpowered or too overpowered, because they want you to be at a certain place every time. To some extent, not saying that you can't just go off and grind, which everybody does, but like they control the pace of the story and the pace of progression almost all the time in old Final Fantasies. I don't have a problem with a game being linear if that helps enhance the gameplay of the game. If it works with the story that they're telling and the gameplay that they have, like Uncharted, that's a linear game. It doesn't need open world elements. It's fine. It's perfect, almost, I might add, in its own way for what it is. The Last of Us, very little exploration, beautiful locales. It works with it so much. Like The Witcher 3 is a fantasy world that no one's ever explored, and it works as an open world place. You get to see all these locales and go to these different places. You can do that in Final Fantasy 2, but you're just more gridlocked into where you can go and when you can go there. Whereas The Witcher 3, you could argue that like you could go anywhere, but you run the risk of fucking dying because something's going to come out if you're just traveling in the woods all the time, because it's going to fucking kill you. And you need to get good really fast and get better equipment, and you need to pace yourself and what quests you do and whatnot, and you're kind of locked into what quests you can do at a certain point in time if you're trying to follow the recommended levels. Final Fantasy 15, though, I think if they made a game that's similar, if they have to make an open world game again, they need to have a more evenly paced story, and they need to focus on its core characters more. I've already told you what my ideal Final Fantasy game would be. Make it open world-ish, like a little sandbox area for each place. Not as big as the map in 15, but like a small little open world segment, like little sandbox maps, and you just progress to them, like kind of like Kingdom Hearts, honestly. Like you can explore all around this like spherical like world that has like rooms and stuff.
Brian.
I'm not trying to say that Final Fantasy should be for Kingdom Hearts, but listen.
Brian.
Yeah.
I want you to take a deep breath.
Yeah. Get it out of your system.
And when you exhale, say, I just want Kingdom Hearts 3.
I don't just want Kingdom Hearts 3.
Say it. No, you gotta say it.
I don't. That's a lie. I want Kingdom Hearts 3
to progress.
I want Final Fantasy 15 serious story with an action RPG element.
I will amend my request. I will amend my request. No. I'm gonna change it. I promise. Okay, I won't have you say I just want Kingdom Hearts 3, but admit that you want Kingdom Hearts 3.
Oh, of course I do.
Okay.
Of course I want that game. But now let me finish.
My point is being made. Go ahead and finish.
Okay, thanks. I've always imagined my ideal Final Fantasy game to have the story structure of 13, where it's split into different chapters and you're focused on different characters, multiple characters of people, but with an even bigger cast. I'm talking about like you can have a party of 4 in 3 different areas in the world doing different things with the plot, depending on like how you mix and match them, because I love that about 6, that you could split up party members in dungeons and you could send them to different places and you could mix and match whoever you wanted to, and that you weren't locked into a certain character in the party because they were the main character. Because in Final Fantasy VI, all the characters got equal development for the most part, except for like bonus side characters like Go-Go or Imaru, or maybe Realm even got a lot of development too, or not a lot, but like some sort of significant amount, I guess, to her. But the thing is like you had multiple party members, like an abundance of them, and I would love a Final Fantasy that was mildly open world, but still had a linear plot progression. But with the story structure, and with the story structure of 13, where you focus on different people at different points in the story, they intersect together and they come together, and then all of a sudden you've got like 16, 18 people to choose from. And then on top of all that, have it be a true action RPG. Because I honestly think that, like, with the way
Lightning
hardware
Returns. Got it.
No. Lightning Returns was a solo adventure, and it was shit. It was
Type
shit.
Zero. Got it.
Yeah, honestly, I really like that aspect of Type Zero. If it had had a more open world, a better story, and a better game, it would have been fine. Because it was a good game, but it needed to be better. It wasn't that great.
I mean,
if
it
they
was
made
a
that
PSP title, like.
Yeah, and that's understandable, like hardware limitations. But like, if they made a game on the scale of 15 with the components of 6 and Type 0 and the story structure of 13, that would be fucking fantastic. It would be amazing. Because you can really play with customization that way. You can make it skill-based, and you can have fun with the RPG element and not have the story suffer.
I mean,
And
you're going to get a 6 remake soon. I would just be patient.
I don't think we'll ever get a 6 remake.
It's only a matter of time before we get all of them.
I mean, I agree with that, but we won't get a 6 remake until 7's done.
I need you to understand.
And even then...
Well, in that case, not going to get one at all. But...
Exactly.
I mean, everybody's gonna hail something as the best thing until it's given to us again, and then all of a sudden the next thing is the next best thing. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People hail Ocarina of Time as, like, the greatest thing that happened to Zelda. Then we get it again on the 3DS, and then people are like, oh man, I really loved Majora's Mask. And then we mess around and get that, and then it's like,
well, that's Nintendo too.
Twilight Princess was, and then we get that. But that's the formula. That's the formula.
Yeah, that's a modern formula.
General.
But my point that I was trying to make earlier is that, like, I really do think, and this is bottom of my heart, like the way that hardware is going, and the way that everything's changing in terms of gameplay and immersion and open world aspects. People are trying to force that Western RPG element down our throats. I really think that the future of Final Fantasy is being an action RPG. They just need to perfect it, because I think that they had their prime with turn-based. They really did, and I think that turn-based Final Fantasy peaked at 6 and 7. And I think that they gave it its last hurrah in 10, in a sense. Because they have that queue up.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that that's the way that the industry is evolving for RPGs. Like, turn-based RPGs are very niche now. Pokemon and Bravely Default, and then a few other indie games, I think, they've made. That's it. Like, it's moving towards a more action and skill-based system. And that's fine. Like, that's totally fine, because they can do it. Look at Kingdom Hearts and how fun it is. And how fun the combat is, and too. Like, honest to God, like, they know how to do good skill-based action RPGs. But I think that because, like Tabata said, and he has a point, because people... What are you screen sharing?
What?
What are you screen sharing?
What do you mean?
Oh, shit. I see it now. But,
dang,
no.
It almost looked like receipts.
It is receipts. I had no idea. I'd never read that. I'm happy to know that now. But I'm just, I really, really do love this series, guys, and that's the bottom line. I want Square to do well. I want to see them keep making good quality JRPGs, and I want to see them get the formula right, because I don't begrudge Tabata for making this game. He made a good game. He made a great game.
Only low key.
No, he He did the best with what he had, and the
No,
time
I'm talking about
constraints.
you. I'm talking about you begrudging him.
Oh yeah, low key begrudge him because I was like, I could have had what I had, and that's the biggest disappointment about 15. I think that everyone could take away, like that is critically looking at it. 15 has a lot of pieces, and I read that from the IGN review, like the pieces bit. But like 15 has a lot of pieces, and in those pieces, infinite amounts of potential. Like you have the setup to have this grand narrative, these great lovable characters, and all of that. I see you pointing at it on your mouse on the screen share. You have all of that put on a platter for you, but unfortunately, because of circumstances, we just can't get all of that. And a lot of that potential will just stay potential and what could have been. And we, as players who have followed it from the beginning and been closely anticipating this game, like that's going to haunt us for the rest of our lives. Like we won't ever get versus 13. We won't ever get like a full-fledged 15 narrative. This is it. But that's it. That's my piece. Like we won't ever get it, and we have to accept it. And that 15 is just full of wasted potential at the end.
Ouch.
But it's still a good game. That's the thing. It has so much potential, and it could have been so much more. But it's still such a great game, and it's a paradox because you can feel it when you play it, the cuts. But you're still like, good God, I can't stop playing this game because it's good. And that's what makes it great. Despite all this, it's still good. It's like the opposite of Final Fantasy VIII. Oh my God.
Is that why you hate it so much, Brian?
No, I think that's why I want to love it so much.
Nah, that's why you hate it so much.
No, I love 8 because 8, like I've said before.
No, that's why you hate 15 so much.
Why would I hate 15? Because it's like Final Fantasy VIII. That makes me feel good about it. But yeah, like this Final Fantasy VIII would have like a great story, but very kind of subpar gameplay. 15 is very great gameplay, but a subpar story. So it's like conceptual opposites. So anyway, that's my end of my piece. You say your piece, and I'm going to fucking bed. It's 1.
You sure you don't want to go till 2?
No, I don't want to go till 2.
He was like, we ain't gonna be up till 3, and I'm like, bro, we gonna be up till 3.
No, he said we. No, he's like, I don't want to be up till 2. I'm like, you're gonna talk till 2 almost.
Bro, they lying. We got. Okay, never mind. It's a disambiguation for illusions page.
Yeah. Why you trying to go to the wiki? Actually, the best place to go is the wiki.
I was looking for 7 remake stuff, and then I got sidetracked because that's what happens on wikis.
I'm looking for his Pornhub tab.
You're not gonna find it. I don't have Tumblr open.
Also, we get flagged.
For having a tab?
Yes.
No, you don't.
I mean, if I don't click on the tab.
Yeah, if you don't click on the tab, you'll find it.
But oh, look at that. He's just Kefka.
Yeah, he's like Caius and Kefka put into one.
Oh, whoa, no. Caius had some no.
Shut up.
I just like Caius a great deal.
I love Caius a great deal.
Yeah, no. But this is chord I'm looking at. What does this go to?
Anyway, what were you gonna say?
You were like, say your piece, and it's like, man, I don't have anything extravagant to say. Like, my whole bit was that I put it up because there was an issue with what it could have been, But it's like that with every game, honestly. I mean, it's to different extent. See, you tell me to say my piece, and then I say something, and now you about to.
No, I'm sorry. I just saw what you put in the chat, and now I feel bad.
About the wait, am I gonna be able to get to talk about wait mode?
Yeah.
Well, no, because I put that like right after you were like, you played it more than me, and then I was like, I never played it, and you were like, what? And then before you had just asked me to explain it though, and then you immediately like kept going. So I'm like, am I not gonna talk about it? Okay, but nah, like my biggest deal about it was that yeah, there was wasted potential, but wasted potential like goes to about as many extents as it does in different games, from games like 15 to Smash 4 to Metal Gear Solid 5. There's always amounts of cut content that keep it from being that 10 out of 10, not 7.8 out of 10, too much water title that we end up getting. And for for all the trouble it's gone through, I'm content at the very least that in this day and age where delays end up making and breaking games, and you get games that okay, maybe they're not in development for 10 years, but they're definitely pushed back a significant amount and end up like not being able to fit the bill, for this game to undergo essentially just pain. That's what I would call it. For it to just undergo
Would you call
growing
it?
pains. Growing
Would you call it
pains.
a phantom pain?
No. No, I would not. Phantom pain really is suffering a phantom pain, because that's a pain you get when something gets amputated. In chapter 3, like forever cut an arm off of that game. But yeah, nah, just from growing pains on the road to becoming something, it still came out to be a pretty good title. Yeah, its story is kind of like in bits and pieces scattered all over the place. But for a JRPG, I guess I'm not really all that surprised. Not to say that it's excused, but to say that it's natural. I mean, anybody who's playing through Kingdom Hearts knows that. Anybody who's trying to keep canon with what the heck Persona 4 is knows that. I mean, you're talking about a RPG, 2 fighting games, and a rhythm game. You know what I mean? You're going way outside the border there for some canon content. But for what it's worth, what most of the story I could track, story of Noctis and Luna and his bros doing the thing. Basically, as far as Hajime Tabata's The Hangover goes, I was satisfied with where it went and how it ended up. And because I know we're going to get more, if anything, as an apology, I'm excited to know where it's going to go. I think that's my biggest thing with it. Like, it went through all that, and it managed to come out complete but not perfect.
Yeah.
And they're seeking to rectify those imperfections instead of being like, well, we tried. Oh, well, here you go. Or Street Fighter 5, where it's here's $60 for a third of the game. We'll give you more, but you either have to play nonstop for 10 years or just pay for the rest of it. Or, Destiny.
Ha. Well, I'd say that's a wrap. I thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time. We hope you enjoyed this. I'm gonna go to bed.
The matchup was going to be Neji Hyuga versus Cecil Harvey.
Was it?
It's postponed.
Yep.
Again.
Vote
Alright.
now on your phones.
Vote now. Goodbye.
Can you believe that the first 30 minutes of the podcast was not about Final Fantasy?
Oh,
'Cause
by
I
the way,
can't.
Attack on Titan's getting a season 2.
Oh my god.
It was good. Enjoy it.